We are about to get started, guys. Just give me one moment. Okay, I'm pretty sure we're good to go. We should be live. Brandon, there? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. I believe everyone can hear us. We're gonna. All right, I'll just pop on our faces now, or my face. Welcome. Oh, is this center of the camera? Is the camera center? I don't know. Anyway,
close enough.
Close enough. Close enough. Welcome everyone. This is Andre's Restart. That is my friend Brandon. And today we'll be talking about Nintendo as we usually do. But you might have noticed we are starting a little bit earlier. That's right. 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Potentially the new time moving forward, we shall see. It is tentative for now, but we're giving it a try. Why are we doing it earlier? The same reason we went an hour earlier a few months ago. Because we get up really early in the morning. And it just kind of makes sense in terms of tackling the day to get to this a little bit earlier as opposed to being finished, 2 to 3 hours after we go live, sometimes longer, and then Brandon and I have to talk about stuff afterwards, and before you know it, it's extremely late, and we are not getting any sleep, and it does not position us well for the rest of the day. Not to mention, some of you guys have to go to work in the morning, right? So this, I think, is potentially a better time for more people. I mean, I feel maybe that way, but obviously it kind of depends, right? Because if you have people on the on the West Coast, they're getting out. I mean, it's only 4 p.m. for them now, so a lot of them are probably still working. So but then an hour later, still 5. Like how many people are out by 5? Of course, you could always watch afterwards, and we'll still be going for 2 to 3 hours every time. But we'll see. We'll try this out. Anyways, the plan tonight is to talk about Tears of the Kingdom, as we probably will be talking about for months to continue. And there's been some relatively significant news that came up this past weekend. I put out a video about it earlier today. If you saw it, then you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't, well, I'll explain. Basically, the series producer, the guy, Eiji Aonuma, came out on stage, or rather, I didn't see a presentation, but there was an award show. Famitsu, they had their annual award show, and they awarded Tears of the Kingdom with most anticipated game. And Aonuma,
as it should.
Exactly, as it should. You're correct, Brandon. Had some comments, and he said some things about Tears of the Kingdom that I think are fairly significant. So we're going to be breaking that down, but we're also be talking about a rumor that is now popping up for the direct date for Tears of the Kingdom, which kind of lines up with a lot of speculation Brandon and I have had in the past. So it may not come as too much of a shock to you guys, but we're going to kind of go over that, discuss the likelihood of it. But then we'll also be talking about open world Donkey Kong. We also put out a video about that a few days ago as well. We saw some things, and I believe that there's some legitimacy here. Will it come to market? Will it be exactly as we heard it initially? That's still up in the air, so take it with a grain of salt. But there is something legitimate here, I believe, from what I've seen and heard behind the scenes. And it is a very exciting concept, and we'll be going over this today in more detail. But there's more. We're also going to be talking about how F-Zero GX, that remaster we've been talking about for a few months, well, according to Nintendo Prime, the developer for this remaster is Next Level Games, which is not the kind of studio you would expect to do just a basic remaster. So this is also promising to hear, if true. And then we're also going to be talking about Metroid Prime 4 because Nintendo is now mentioning it in their surveys, so that also could be fairly substantial. Yeah. Brandon, I actually have to do something real quick because apparently a weird audio situation. I'm going to take care of that in a moment here. How about you just kind of say hello to everyone real quick? Just buy me 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right. It's just you and me now, comments. Just you and me. You know, I haven't been on the podcast for a couple weeks. Here, let me actually go to the chat. Let's see if this will work. No, shut up, ad. Let's see what people are saying in the comments. It's been a while. How you guys doing? I see a lot of people in the chat. I saw DW4 Smash was saying they had to go to bed, but thank you for leaving the comment. Make sure to leave a like, guys. Make sure to leave a like.
I am back.
Reading the chat here.
Okay. Very good.
I was just like saying people who are in the chat. We've got JRR Tolkien, Yod, Danny, Sylvia.
I see. I don't know. There's something wrong with my chat. I don't see anything in the chat. What happened?
Oh, well, there's a lot of messages in my chat.
Yeah. I didn't see any.
I was gonna list all the people, but it's just like
okay.
It
finally came to me. I saw there was 2 people in the chat, and now I see a lot more than that. So that is a significant difference.
Yeah.
But
I see that all you people talking about Tyler with my triumphant return. Everybody else saying hi, thank you.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm now catching up to chat here. DW for Smash, hello. JR Tolkien, am I going to be talking about the wealth of nations? I don't think so. Hello there, Yod. Let's go. Hello there, Danny. Hello. Hi, Sylvia. I am here. I was not here briefly, though. Samuel A. You are on time, my friend. Ticket. Thank you for saying I'm awesome, and I'm glad you love the Donkey Kong coverage. We will, whenever there's something to talk about for Donkey Kong, we will try and talk about Donkey Kong. I mean, I would actually be down to maybe create a few theory videos on it too, so I gotta let my brain kind of ruminate upon it for a little bit, but maybe there'll be more coming in the future. Sergey, new open world Mario game. I don't think that's this. The way I came about that may sound negative. I think actually that there might be an open world Mario game in development. I can't say that with any certainty because I don't have any information about what they're working on.
Kind of a logical evolution past Odyssey.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you look at, to your point, Brandon, Mario Odyssey, but then also Bowser's Fury, which was an open world experience, a mini one, but truly still an open world experience, added a 3D world, that does sort of suggest a direction. And I personally feel that when you take a look at the Mario movie, we go back to that first poster they showed us, that world, that the way it looks, it screams like more of an ambitious, open, large-scale Mario kind of game. And Nintendo has seen that the bigger, openish adventures bring in the numbers. And so, with Nintendo now understanding that perhaps more fully than ever before, they are absolutely going to have an inclination towards pushing Mario in that direction. So, I agree with Brandon. It is definitely the logical leap. It is my expectation, or perhaps my prediction, but you never know, right? You never know what direction they'll take Mario. It could be something else. It could be Mario Galaxy, which would still be cool, but it would definitely be different. I mean, you actually think about it for a second. Imagine if they did have a Mario Galaxy 3 or a Mario Galaxy style game. It wouldn't be as open, which would be disappointing, but on the flip side, because it would be more linear, from a graphics perspective, they could probably make something that just looks probably better than anything we've seen on Switch. Like, it would poo-poo on Breath of the Wild and Prime Remastered, like, just in terms of, like, the type of detail we see up close. Of course, by doing that, it wouldn't be open and you wouldn't have as much options in terms of exploring, which I wouldn't love.
Right.
But it would
you can also have, like,
be fun.
tighter puzzles, more coordinated. I'm trying to think of the word, but you can have better puzzles and things because of the smaller scale and better platforming and things.
Yeah, but also I think Mario Odyssey, I personally feel is closest to the right balance because it has linear
nice.
portions. There are little escapes or little portals you can jump into, or pipes, warp pipes you can jump into that take you to side levels that are in their own sort of like parallel realm where it is kind of like a Mario Galaxy style level. And I do like those levels. I do like those challenges. So if we can get those challenges nicely intertwined with an open world, I'm all for that. I think that might be the proper balance. Like, imagine Bowser's Fury on steroids, larger, more variety, running well, but also with warp pipes to take us to smaller realms that are like kind of galaxy-style levels, bite-sized. They give us that kind of style of gameplay as well, so we have that nice balance. I think that's maybe the proper formula to take the next 3D Mario.
Yeah, I hope for something like that. I could see, because we already had like big, large-scale environments in Odyssey. Just like, you just need those interconnecting areas to connect it all. And I don't think that'd be too far of a leap for them to do.
No, and actually thinking about it, remember in early Odyssey there was the moon, the first kingdom. It's not the moon kingdom, but like the bunny kingdom, I guess. Like the very first kingdom, I forget what it was called.
Hat Kingdom.
The Hat Kingdom. Thank you. That kingdom.
I don't know if that's the exact name.
Yeah, but it's like the black and white one, right? It's a really cool world. But at the end of it, you see like the zip line, like the zap line, right? And that takes you to the Lost Kingdom. I think it's called Lost Kingdom, right? But the dinosaur.
No. The Lost Kingdom is.
It takes you to Fossil Falls. One. Lost Kingdom is the jungle one. Yeah, you're right. But the thing is, it seems like a Lost Kingdom because it has like Triceratops bones and dinosaurs like that. You know what I mean? But Fossil Falls is what it's called, right? So it takes you to Fossil Falls, and that's kind of like a connection. Like it's not using the Odyssey to fly between them at first. It's this connection. So imagine if, to your point, Brandon, if there was something that can kind of connect those worlds, that would be cool. I mean, imagine if it's like, imagine having Yoshi as a mount. Like imagine, all right, so analogy, Link to Epona as Mario to Yoshi. Like that would be cool. Like imagine just riding Yoshi across vast mushroom fields.
I think we're kind of missing the biggest point of what might make a Mario like open world cool, and that is like, if you look at a lot of the Mario spin-offs, especially the Mario RPGs, there's a lot of like Mario towns and like other peoples and things that are never represented in the mainline games. And it'd be great to fill out those in-between areas with all that kind of stuff and really boost the lore and get to see all kinds of different locations in the Mushroom Kingdom.
That would be cool. Now I wonder though, like I remember, so like in Mario Galaxy when it first opens up, you have like this. You actually get to explore a little bit of a Toad Town right before the castle. Like it would be awesome to see something like that. To your point, expanding upon those in between areas. It is why I like the Paper Mario games, for example, because we get to explore kind of like a more expanded version of the Mushroom Kingdom.
I feel like the Mario RPG or the Mario and Luigi RPGs might even do it a little bit better, to be honest. But I do love Paper Mario.
We got Super Mario RPG with Mario and Luigi with Paper Mario, but I understand. I've just played more Paper Mario games, so it's a little bit more relatable to me. But yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying there at all. Like that would be cool. It does make me wonder though, like if they do that, how can they do it to a point where it makes sense? Because like, will there be side quests? Will there be RPG elements? Will that be too much for an open world Mario game? Will that really take away from the platforming? And I
don't know if they need that RPG elements, but they could have like side quests that make sense within the Mario gameplay.
Yeah.
Like platforming challenges that could get items that you need to retrieve or something. I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head.
I guess I would just want to think about the whatever, if they go like truly fully open, it's just as long as it's something that truly contributes to the overall gameplay loop.
Right,
Like, it's
that's the
something
thing
that's
is,
fun. Like, don't just do it for the sake of doing it. Like, it has to be
Right.
something that kind of makes it like a better experience, right? Like,
And
Bowser's
that's why,
Fury
I'm not worried about
makes sense.
Nintendo doing it though, because
Yeah.
Nintendo, like when they took Breath of the Wild open world or they took Zelda open world with Breath of the Wild, like they did that for a reason. They really used the open world to the advantage of the gameplay in every way, even beyond what a lot of other big, AAA devs were doing and have been doing. So I don't doubt that they would do the same for Mario, and if there is going to be an open world Mario, it's only going to be because they have an idea for it. It's not going to be because they think that for some reason open world is like a buzz thing, or
right.
Might be better
what
for
I
marketing or
personally kind
anything
of
like
like the idea. I'm not saying it can't be open, but I kind of like the idea of starting small and slowly building out, like expanding out. Like, you can only go so far at first, but kind of like how Bowser's Fury, you kind of open up the world. I want something like that. I think that would be cool. Heck, I mean,
I wouldn't even mind if it was more like a Xenoblade type thing, where there's a huge interconnected world, but you don't necessarily.
It's not even
get to go to anywhere, any place.
Right. It's not even maybe it's not even technically open world, just more like large open zones.
Right, it might even be that, large open zones connected by like very short.
So it is still like an adventure
screens.
though that you can kind of venture between, and they'll still have fast traveling if you don't want to like do the walking yourself. But if you do, there's still some enjoyment to be had there. They
may be able to do the Xenoblade type with no loading screens on the next gen system with a better CPU, better streaming capabilities.
The thing is though, if it's cross-platform though, I don't think they'll.
That might be I could see that.
That's kind of part of the issue.
I could see a version where there's loading screens on the older version and it's just seamless on the new. That could actually be really cool.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that wouldn't be too hard to do, like, technically, I mean, as far as the coding goes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like it wouldn't be too much dev time.
I don't doubt it. It'd
be a cool upgrade on the new console, too.
Yeah, it would be. But since there's not actually a dedicated Mario topic, let's move away from this for a little bit. Let me check in. We got a few super chats here, so let me get to that. We'll go through the chat for a little bit, and then we'll jump into our first major topic. All right, so super chat here earlier from Taker610. Thank you very much for the super chat, Taker. Taker says, waiting for Tears of the Kingdom since 2019 has been a journey. It's been an open air journey on our butts. Sitting or whatever we do for work on the day-to-day or studying or life. But yes, it has been a journey and it is coming to a close. But this may be the end of one journey, but it's only going to be the beginning of a whole other. The journey that will be playing in Tears of the Kingdom. So it's going to be a fantastic time, and I'm very excited, and I'm excited to talk about the news we have today, because I think, I put out the video today, but I think there's honestly a lot of room to dig deeper on what was said, and I think we're going to start that tonight for sure. I see here that Samuel A has re-upped on their membership for Legends Plus. Thank you, Samuel A, for continuing your membership. That is super, super appreciated, buddy. It's been a real pleasure. Samuel A has actually, been a part of some of the call-in segments. It's something that is eligible for members, so if you're interested, keep that in mind. And of course, you're featured in credits, and you can suggest topics, and if you need advice for anything, those are little different features that is available for members. So, but anyways, Samuel A here says, how much longer, or asks, it's a question, right? Yeah, it's a question. How much longer than Breath of the Wild do you estimate Tears of the Kingdom to be? For example, it took me 100 to 110 hours to do most things in Breath of the Wild. So without spoiling some of the speculation I have in mind for today, I'm going to say that I think ultimately it's going to come down to how you choose to play the game. For example, in Breath of the Wild, you can beat it fairly quick. When I'm personally thinking of Tears of the Kingdom, I think getting to the end is going to be slightly more linear in the sense that you'll have to accomplish certain tasks in order to beat the game. I don't think you'll just be able to go straight to the final boss. So I think it will inherently be forced longer for most people. But That doesn't mean it'll take forever. I think there will be people that probably will still be able to beat it within 10 to 20 hours. Once they learn how to speed run, right? I think the typical person will probably still take maybe close to 100 hours. I think it's probably going to be about the same. However, I think the way the world will be constructed, I think it will be more rich with content to enjoy. And if you're the kind of person that wants to do side quests, or if you're going to take advantage of some of the new systems in place and really maximize what's out there, I think there's actually going to be a lot more to enjoy in Tears of the Kingdom. And we're talking about maybe 100 hours for Breath of the Wild players. I can see a scenario where it's going to be 200, 300 hours for more players, because the way it's being constructed, I think it may very well be something that's going to feel almost like unlimited gameplay. So while it may take another 6 to 7 years for the next mainline new Zelda game, this Tears of the Kingdom is probably going to be something that we'll be able to enjoy for an even longer amount of time than Breath of the Wild. Why exactly? Well, just stay tuned. We're getting to the topic soon, I promise. Another super chat here from Kieran Buckley. Prime 4 to be this year's holiday game, yes or no?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I did make a video yesterday talking about how Metroid Prime 4 could be coming sooner than you may think. And, I mean, I stand by saying that Metroid Prime 4 is close. And I think there's a great, fantastic chance that we see it this year. I'm going to venture to guess that it does not come out by the end of this year.
Yeah,
I see it. I see it as a release for next year.
There's a chance, but no.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible for sure. But
with the Metroid Prime Shadow drop, that is kind of like suggesting that they might want to get more Metroid content out later in the year.
I mean, some people. So there's been a school of thought that if with Prime Remastered coming out at the beginning of the year, they may want Prime 4 to come out at the end of the year, and that may be the case. It kind of just depends on how. The reason why I can't just tell you yes or no, it's because it kind of depends on what Nintendo is going to do. If this may seem odd, but my personal take is this. If Nintendo Switch 2 is truly coming out at the end of this year, which is not confirmed yet, but I think is a legitimate possibility, then I see Prime 4 not coming out this year, which may surprise you. But I do think it'll be close. I think it's going to be a launch window game that will be showcased alongside the system. It will be marketed as one of the big games to come out with the system. Still for Switch, but just kind of like showcasing the abilities of the system is my main point there. But I think they're going to launch with 3D Mario. I believe that. So, you know, with a 3D Mario coming out at the end of this year, I have a hard time seeing where they position Prime 4. Because I feel that Prime 4 being kind of like a single-player adventure, like a massive one, something like a 3D Mario, there's a bit, you know, there's some similarity there, even though obviously a platform versus a first-person adventure, one's cartoony, one is like semi-realistic and scary. Like, I understand there's differences. I just feel that Nintendo might divide them a little bit because Nintendo has viewed Mario, Zelda, and Metroid as kind of like similar in the sense of like being like their premier single-player epic adventures over the years.
I feel like they're all must-have games for hardcore fans.
Yes.
Like if you're a Nintendo fan, they're all must-haves. So you're going like pretty much you're.
But like for example, I could see a scenario where like a Mario Party could come out like a month before the 3D Mario, right? Or a Star Fox if the Star Fox is more multiplayer centric. Like I could see something like that. Or if the Donkey Kong game's not open world, I could see a 2D Donkey Kong game coming out a month or two before 3D Mario or Metroid. Yeah. But because Metroid Prime 4 and 3D Mario both can be like these epic 3D adventure games, like potentially open world or just large scale, I see them being a little bit divided. So with that in mind, if there's a new Switch coming out this year, I wouldn't expect it till about the holiday, and that I think will likely be 3D Mario. To me, saying that Prime 4 is probably more likely coming out sometime in 2024, but I do think we'll start to see Prime 4 this year. And also, there is the looming Prime 2 and 3. Nintendo may want to put those out before Prime 4. So
I think those might, and those have a pretty good chance of coming out this year, I think. If the next Switch isn't coming out this year.
Yeah, so Well, I totally acknowledge the possibility for Prime 4 to come out this year, and it could happen. I'm gonna err on no. I mean, on it being no. However, I will say this: if there is no Switch 2 this year, and 3D Mario's not coming out this year, I could see Nintendo slotting in Prime 4 for this holiday. That I think would make sense, like a Metroid Prime 4 and like some other kind of like big multiplayer game. I think that would be a good 1-2 punch for the holiday if they don't have 3D Mario ready.
I honestly don't think we're going to see Metroid Prime 4 before the next system. I think Retro Studios would 100% be interested in the capabilities of the next generation. We're already seeing them push with Metroid Prime Remastered the Switch to like the limits, and they always push every console limits, and they're super interested in always the next hardware. So I wouldn't be surprised if they want to release it on both at the same time. I would be very shocked if they waited this long to release Metroid Prime 4 and then just didn't release it like a few months or a year before the next system. That would shock me.
Well, I understand your point, and you know, I'm not ready to say Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out 100% at the end of this year yet, but I am definitely I definitely want it. I think it could happen. So yeah, I feel like
I'm pretty 50-50 on it.
So the thing is,
maybe 60-40.
The timing, it's just kind of tricky. Like I'm still trying to pin down what I expect to happen, and I'm not sure because it really just comes down to, you know, what direction Nintendo is headed in. And I think we're gonna know by the end of this summer. We're gonna have a good understanding of that by that point. But I'll tell you this, Brennan, to kind of counter your point about Prime 4 needing to come alongside the new system. Tears of the Kingdom, you would have thought Nintendo would have saved for a new system, yet here we are.
Yes, but I also think Tears of the Kingdom has a lot of baggage from Breath of the Wild that makes it less interesting on the new system, because I really don't think they can do that much in terms of making it like way better. I don't know. I mean, they could make it look better, but I also think inherently Prime 4 is going to be a better looking game than Tears of the Kingdom, just if you like look at the technology itself and like the actual asset quality and things. I don't know. I do feel like Prime 4 is going to be more of a showcase though, and would be more of a showcase for a next gen system than Tears of the Kingdom could be. Although I would be nice to have like 4K, better draw distances, possibly 60 FPS if that's even possible.
As anything is possible, Brandon. You just have to believe.
Just have to believe.
I want my 60 frame per second.
Maybe they have a 1080p 60 mode.
I hope so. I really want that.
That'd be kind of cool.
Now that I've been starting to edit videos in 60 frames per second, I'm like, man, why is all Zelda footage at 30 FPS? I really would like it to be at 60. It just feels better. Just does.
Yeah.
Of course, obviously, open world's tough to do, but you know, I think a Switch 2 could probably get that done. So, fingers crossed on that one. I do think there will be a graphics enhancement patch for Tears of the Kingdom. Like whenever the Switch 2 comes, I think they will beef it up. The visuals will be better in some way, and I'm gonna venture to guess that it will have a 60 FPS mode. Call me crazy, but
it might be able to.
Yeah,
it very well might.
Anyways,
I mean,
maybe this is kind of hinting as to what I kind of ultimately am thinking. But I'm thinking that Prime 4 does not come out this year. Definitely sometime next year, but we'll start to learn about it this year. That's what I think is gonna happen.
Yeah, it's definitely what I'm leaning towards.
Yeah, so you know, maybe that means Switch 2 is coming out this year. We'll see. But that's not really the focus for tonight. So I see that Rigo Romero also upped on their membership. Thank you very much, Rigo. Super appreciated, buddy. But let me come back to the live chat here. All right, I'm going to focus on At just so I can kind of catch up. Let's see here. Okay, good. It's a good time for you, Kieran. That's awesome. Samuel, it would be awesome if you started earlier. Okay. Keeping in mind.
We should put a poll.
Eon, I don't want to put a poll because the thing is, I just want to do 7. So,
Well,
you
just
know.
put up a poll just to see, and just to see. We don't have to listen to the polls. It's not like the poll decides our fate. I'm just curious
that's
what
the problem.
thinks.
Like, the reason I'm doing 7 because it makes sense for me. You know, I can put a poll, but it's not gonna really change much.
I know, it's just for the science.
Okay.
I mean, if you're gonna comment on people's opinions on
what
it,
is the best time?
Get a better understanding.
What is the best time to do the podcast? 7 p.m.
Clarify
EST.
it's in Eastern.
I'm putting the EST. 7 p.m. EST. 7 p.m. EST. 7 p.m. I'm just kidding. How many options should we pit?
I don't know. 6, 7, 8, and 9.
A whole other hour earlier?
Even earlier.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Probably not. I probably wouldn't be ready either. I don't know, just 7, 8, 9.
Oh, well, you already had me at it.
Well, it's fine. Just leave it then.
Now I'm confused. Hold on, I got this. I figured it out. 6, 7, 8, 9. Here we go. What is the best time to do the podcast? 6 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. EST, 8 p.m. EST, 9 p.m. EST. I am asking the community. It has been put out.
Now we will know for science.
Just for the record, this poll is more just to see. It will it likely will not truly gauge what I will actually do, because it's kind of more about what I'm just available to do. But I mean, I see we have solid viewership numbers right now, 135, which is awesome, guys. Thanks for being here.
Let's go.
Yeah. If you guys
150.
Yeah, for sure. That might be possible if you like the stream. So please like the stream, and I'll also bring up, we do have this goal to hit 25,000 subscribers. So we're trying to get there. We're behind pace. The goal is to get there by the time May 12th happens, the release for Tears of the Kingdom. So, you know, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. But yeah, that's the goal. And I am thinking about doing something to celebrate it. Haven't fully figured it out yet. I might do like a daily stream for Tears of the Kingdom for a couple hours or something before we would do something else. I just kind of have to find a way to make it work alongside all the other things I do. So we'll figure that out. Anyways, coming back to the chat here. Actually, got another super chat from Taker610. Thank you for the super chat, Taker. Taker says, imagine getting next Mario game teaser before the movie. That would be a shock and a half. I would be floored.
That is not gonna happen. Oh, I just feel like that's such a Nintendo would never do that. Like,
I don't think so.
They're so curated with how they want to show their stuff.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Ronnie Fazio's asking, do you think F-Zero GX Remastered would be $60 or $40? That is a fantastic question. What were you going to say, Brandon?
Great question. I would hope for 40 because Metroid Prime Remastered, but at the same time, I think it might be 40 because F-Zero is not like a premier title. I feel like Zelda can get away with 60 and Mario can get away with 60 and maybe some other franchises, but I don't think F-Zero can. And I feel like that's also why Metroid was also 40. It's because that series just kind of needs a little more help.
We had a little phrase that we came up with a couple months ago, talking about these slew of remasters are on the way. There's like some sort of agenda.
GameCube Renaissance?
Something like that. Some sort of GameCube agenda Renaissance thing. There's some sort of plan that I think Nintendo has in place. And if it is meant to be kind of like this thing that they do, then I think 40 is possible. But I don't know. I think this might be a good opportunity to talk about the F-Zero topic. It's probably going to be our shortest topic for the evening. So we can kind of slot it into to this discussion here. So, Ronnie Fazio, I will answer the question. The answer is I'm not sure. But we'll circle back to this as we kind of talk about the circumstance. So this is the full story. F-Zero GX has been rumored to be getting a remaster for some time already. We've talked about this multiple times on the channel. But we now have some more information on it from Nintendo Prime. He has a source. We trust Nintendo Prime. And his source is saying that it's Next Level Games. Now, this is actually pretty significant information because Next Level Games is a Nintendo studio. They are responsible for Mario Strikers. They are responsible for Luigi's Mansion 3. They make high-quality Nintendo games. They don't just make your typical remaster. So the fact that Next Level Games is developing this, well, it's not a. It might be a fact, but we don't know if it's a fact.
Games too.
They do make.
In fact, they make some of the
games.
best looking games on the system.
That is absolutely true. So
yeah.
Yeah. I guess the point is that if it's Next Level Games working on this, that kind of suggests maybe a little bit more ambition behind it. Like if it was just like a
Metroid
random
Prime remastered sort of treatment, in my opinion.
Maybe. I think Retro Studios kind of handed off the project though, because they went on to work on Metroid Prime 4. Like they created the core engine, they got it started, but it looks like they had it finished by other studios and they probably just oversaw it, because they were focusing on Prime 4. We don't know what the story is exactly with Next Level Games, but regardless though, I think it's still a worthy point to bring up, Brandon, that Retro Studios create a high quality remaster with Metroid Prime. We should expect Next Level to make a high-quality remaster for F-Zero GX. So then that begs the question, will it be $40 or $60? The thing about F-Zero GX is that if they handle it the exact same way they handle Metroid Prime, it would not be a good idea. And let me explain why. If they don't offer any new content, like if all they do is like, hey, you can kind of see some cool character models and stuff, which is what they did with Metroid. Like that was a cool feature for that because you can look at the art and things like that. That's a cool thing that the Metroid series tends to do already. But if they don't like add any like new gameplay options, that'll be bad for F-Zero. Metroid Prime's a single player game. There was no need to add like an online play or anything like that. F-Zero GX at least needs to have some sort of revamped multiplayer mode that has online. So with that,
definitely needs online.
Yeah. So with that in mind, this kind of is entering. This F-Zero game might be more on the blurred lines territory of what is a remaster versus what is a remake, because I expect this F-Zero game to actually have some new content in there, at least online multiplayer. And I actually think I have more confidence now that since Next Level Games is working on this and not just like a basic random studio, I could see them adding maybe some new tracks, maybe some new characters and vehicles. So with that in mind, I actually am leaning towards this being a $60 game. Let's also point out that while Metroid Prime Remastered was $40, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe also came out in the same week. That was also a remaster from the Wii, and that was $60. But it also had new content.
But that's also Kirby. Like, I feel like Kirby can get away with that easier. Like, Kirby always sells.
Now, I mean, to that point, we also have Advance Wars 1 2 Reboot Camp. And those are, Game Boy Advance games. Now, it's 2 games in 1, which is cool. I mean, they did some nice things there.
Fully remade.
But that is $60, but it's 2 games in 1. So, I mean, I guess I could see a scenario where they could still add new content and maybe they still do discount the price. It's a tough call.
Yeah. I think if they add new content, like significant, like new tracks, new characters, I do think they'll charge $60. But I kind of suspect that they're going to mostly focus on just making the online work. Maybe they'll add some like interesting online modes, but I don't think they're going to add like new maps or characters. Brandon. I think they're going to make the graphics look a lot better, and then make it work online with all the modes, and then that'll be about it.
Hey, so random question. Sorry to distract you. Can you hear any background noise on my end?
No.
Okay, cool. I can hear background noise. But if you guys can't hear background noise, that's fine. Let me know if you can, because the thing
It's also
is,
different through Discord.
that is true. So guys in the chat, if you let me know if you hear any background noise. I only bring this up because technically I have the room door open, and my cat goes in and out. But the thing is, there's other people in the house, so
Right.
and she goes in and out because she has a litter box and drinks water and has food. And plus, it's nice when she does kind of jump on my lap, and everyone sees her. But that also means since the door is open, you don't know. So let me know. But anyway,
She's a valued member of the cast.
The cat is a part of the cast. But Brandon, continue your point though, right? Like so you think they could add new content and still sell it for $40?
I think the content will be like minimal. Like, I think they'll make the modes work with online, and they might like remix some functions to make it like a new interesting mode for online. But that doesn't take like a lot of work. I don't think they're going to make like new maps or like completely new modes that like you have to like make a lot of new content for,
so
anything like that. I think it's gonna be very basic.
They can give us kind of like they'll kind of reorganize multiplayer to have like a dedicated online mode, but at that point it would still be $40. Now let me ask you, like, could they, like, the thing is with online for F-Zero, I would want it to be like not just do a singular race. I want like a Grand Prix mode. I want like a season, I want tournaments. Like I want them to kind of really kind of build off the idea that like F-Zero is like a competitive circuit within the game. Like kind of create some structures around that concept, so we can kind of have like a profile, and we're kind of competing against friends and other people for periods of time, have waves, which I think would be pretty awesome. Now, when we start talking about that, though, that does kind of suggest that maybe the online would need more work to do that, but
I feel like that's the kind of thing they might do with like a new F-Zero game eventually. Because we also don't know what the budget is, and like doing super extensive online quite cost more to not only just set up, but also just for like hosting more servers and things like that. It's a more, for a remaster, it seems like it might be more money. It just depends on what their vision is. Like, it's hard to say.
Yeah. So
I do feel like if they do all that, then they would charge $60.
Yeah. So
or at least $50.
I mean, I guess we're kind of, we're not sure what they're gonna do, but it seems like Brandon and I kind of, I think I kind of agree with you, Brandon. I think if they are not going to add content, I mean, regardless, they're going to add online play. Like, we agree that they have to add online play no matter what the price is. But that online play may be kind of bare bones. And if it's kind of bare bones, then maybe they go for that $40. But it would still be like from a visual perspective, a beautiful remaster. They'll just be stellar. I still think they'll have to do some adjustments to the difficulty, even if it's a $40 price tag. There'll have to be something done to kind of make it a little bit easier for people. Because that game is ridiculously hard. And while I still think...
Is it a lot harder than X?
Oh,
I actually have played X.
X is easy compared to GX.
Yeah, I was playing X on the Switch.
And X is a challenging game, don't get me wrong.
Hard.
I mean, it's a challenging game, but GX, to get through the story mode, is ridiculous. And that's just normal. There's hard and very hard.
I think I played through the first, 2 cups of the story mode in X, and that wasn't that hard.
It's just on another level, man. It's on another level.
Gotcha.
There's more to do in GX. It's a bigger game. And it's super cool with the story. The story mode's awesome. Like, there's awesome cutscenes. They're beautifully rendered. It's fun. It's just challenging.
Do with the cutscenes, because unless they have the original files, they'll either have to remake the cutscenes exactly like with the same kind of choreography, but just completely remake them from the ground up, or they're going to have to use AI to try to make the quality of the video files that they have look higher resolution. So I'm not sure what they're going to do there.
Yeah. I'm not sure either. I mean, they could just maybe they could just throw it in like some sort of AI upscaler. I don't know.
Right. But it's not gonna look that great.
No, I remember with 3D All Stars, like I don't know what they did. Like they cleaned it up a little bit, but it almost felt like they kind of scaled it and cropped it too. With the
3D
sunshine
All-Stars,
cutscenes.
yeah, did not look good.
But that was
like for like the Mario Sunshine cutscenes,
right.
I assume you mean.
Yeah, they were okay. I would want more for F-Zero GX because there's a lot more cutscenes in F-Zero GX with the story mode, and well, it's just Sunshine wasn't really remade. It was
Yeah, that was a very, very simple port almost.
Yeah. This is not going to be that. So I do have higher expectations.
Emulation.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're going to handle. They may just remake them. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, if it has the same kind of effort as Metroid Prime Remaster, that shouldn't be a crazy expectation.
They could probably get some other company to do it for them if they want.
Sure. No, but I mean, we're just talking about cutscenes here. Like, yeah, they require effort, but this is gonna have. I believe this is gonna have effort. Like, this is gonna be.
Yeah.
People are gonna say. I think this is gonna be kind of like a Prime Remaster situation in the sense that visually it's gonna look like a remake.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. I think it'll be a remaster because they'll probably still base it off the code. I mean, F-Zero GX already looks amazing. There may be some artifacts that will just be upscaled or something, but ultimately it's still gonna look really good. And I expect I think the cutscenes will be redone. If that's the only way they can make them look high quality, I think that's what it'll probably have to do.
I imagine unless they somehow have the source files, I imagine they're just gonna redo them.
Yeah, well, I mean, what was it, Amusement Vision? I'm trying to remember the name of the studio. It was a Sega studio, like Sega worked on it. F-Zero GX developer. Who was it?
I mean, Sega could have them. Nintendo has like a lot of their stuff.
Nintendo and Sega are very buddy. Like I wouldn't be too.
Yeah, but it also depends if
was,
Sega even has it.
It was Amusement Vision.
Sega may not have it anymore.
There's also this other studio, Ryoga Gotoko Studio. I don't know who that is. I didn't know there was this other studio involved. This is a whole other thing. I'm not going to be reading through articles right now, at least. Yeah, it's a tough call. So, Ruby, what are you doing? What are you doing? Please don't make too much noise. Anyway. Yeah, so I personally want it to be $60 because if I know that may sound stupid. Why would you want a game to be more expensive? What I really am saying is I want it to have new content. That's what I'm saying. I want it to have a fleshed out online mode. I already, regardless of what price it is, I expect it to have amazing visuals. But I also, I want them to have some nice quality of life updates to make it inviting to a lot of players, which could still come with a cheaper price. But I want new tracks. I want new vehicle parts. I want new content. So that's why I'm saying $60 because I want it. Now, what will happen?
It'd be the
I don't know.
first new F-Zero content in so long.
Yeah. I guess the question is, will people buy it if it's $60? Like, maybe making it 40 is just the best way to go about it. I don't know. I think.
I mean, let's look at it this way: if they don't add new stuff, and they make it $40, that's probably a much better value to the average person who has not played F-Zero GX than if they added a bit more content and then charged $60. Like, I feel like I am much less interested in new content. Like, personally, I've never played F-Zero GX. So, personally, if they just had the same content, you telling me there's a good amount of content, I've always heard there's a good amount of content already. If they just make that content, better, then I'd be fine with that. They don't need to add new content. I'd much rather pay $40 for the same content with, like, online functionality and better graphics and maybe some quality of life than to pay $60 to, I'm essentially paying $20 more for a bit of extra content.
Okay. All right, here we go. You ready? Compromise. $49.99 has a dedicated online mode with one new cup, Quality of life changes. Looks visually amazing. There you go.
I mean, I'd be down for that.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's see what happens. Well, we don't know, but we'll see. We'll see. Regardless, though, I think the point stands that if Next Level Games is the developer behind this, it does suggest a high-quality remaster and not just a basic upscale. So regardless of what they do, I'm expecting it to have a huge visual revamp, and it's going to play amazing, and it's going to be at least have some quality of life improvements to make it easier for other people to play the game. But I still think they'll with online, and I think regardless, they will retain the difficulty. Like, it's not like they're gonna ruin the difficulty for those that want it, but they're going to find a way to make it easier for those who need.
I imagine they'll just make it easy mode, like
maybe they'll
another slot down.
Maybe they'll include an easy mode that still unlocks content or something. Because I basically, like, there's a whole extra set of tracks that are really hard to unlock by just completing the story mode. However, when F-Zero GX came out, there was another way to unlock it. It wasn't just by being the best gamer on the planet, like the top 0.01%, which is how hard the game is. But the other way would be by going to an arcade with your GameCube memory card and playing F-Zero AX. So F-Zero GX, the GameCube version, and then the arcade version AX. You could put your GameCube memory card in there, obtain some data, and by putting that back into your GameCube when you came back home, it would unlock the AX tracks for you. So the content's already in there, but they were just...
So what they gotta do is they gotta make you play F-Zero X on Nintendo Online. So if you're not good enough at GX Remastered,
no,
you just go play X.
No. Yeah. Alright, so that's not gonna happen. Anyways, they do need to make it easier to get the AX tracks in some way, because there's no arcades available now. So I'm just taking a look at the poll. Been out for 20 minutes, got 80 votes. You know, I think I'm gonna close it because it's not that important to the discussion. But here, let me just end it now. And I'm actually quite pleased with the result. I'm very happy with it. I'm shocked. So here is the result of the poll. What is the best time to do the podcast? At last place, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 7%. Only 7% put 9 p.m. Eastern Time, which is our oldest time. That's when we used to do it. So the fact that 7% of people were okay with 9 and the rest want it to other times suggests that we've been going in the right direction. The second most popular time, which was our previous time from beforehand, was 8 p.m. Eastern Time. 18%. So people were like, no, don't do that. We don't want the 18%. So, all right, that kind of does suggest that we shouldn't go back to the old time. At second place, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 22%. So more people would prefer the show to be earlier than later. So, okay, you know what? I am taking that into consideration. I don't know if I'm going to go down to 6, but maybe there can be streams in the future that may happen. They won't be necessarily the podcast or my typical live streams. Like, you know, if there's like a special show, maybe if I want to have a guest on that isn't going to be available later at night, I'll be more willing to go earlier in the day if I announce it ahead of time. Or maybe that's when I'll do like some game streams. Like they'll be more like a midday thing, like sometime between an early day video release and a late night stream. So I'm kind of, you know, I'm taking notes for when Tears of the Kingdom comes out. That kind of makes sense. And then the best time, which is the current time that we selected for today and probably moving forward, is 7 p.m. Eastern Time at 51%, which is substantial. That's a majority victory. That's a big one. It still had majority, even though it had a lot of competition. So that is significant. Now, there is something else that I should mention here that I think does skew the numbers quite a bit. We did the poll at the time of this stream, which started at 7. So people watching it around now is because they can. So I would say that,
like, wow, it's a great time,
right, because the people who are watching it right now are like, oh, this is a good time, right? So there may be people who will come later on like, no, I wish I was there for that poll, but I can't be because I'm not available until 2 hours later at 9 p.m. So that is the tricky part, right? But like I said, 7 p.m. just kind of works for us. But anyways, it was fun.
We did get 80 votes. It's a pretty big sample size.
That is a large sample size. Still skewed because of the timing, which, you know, it's just hard to say. I think doing a community post, I think that might, you know,
Yeah.
that might be a little bit more of a fair check there. But anyways, let me kind of go through the chat here, because there's a lot more that I wanted to check through, and then we'll move on to our next topic. I feel like we covered F-Zero well, though.
Yeah.
Giancarlo added me. Nintendo could do a mixture of linearity and open-ended gameplay for its next game. Open for its world, linear to obtain the collectibles of the game. This is I'm assuming for going back to the Mario conversation. Yeah. I think you're on a pretty good track there. I saw Ronnie Fazio's question from earlier, so yeah, I already answered that. If it has no new content, $40. If it has new content, $60. And I threw out $50 as some sort of mix in between. We've seen Nintendo go with that price tag too. Watch it be $80. It has 50 million tracks.
Yeah, weren't Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD both 50?
Yes, I don't remember.
I believe so, because I think Twilight Princess was 60 if you got the amiibo with it.
I don't remember.
That's the version I got.
I do remember that. I remember that Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze used to be $50 back on the Wii U.
Yes.
It was a different time.
Yes, it did.
That was a different time. Hello, DE Fox. Thank you for modding, buddy. AB James. I can't see the next DK game being true open world. Mario has many more 3D games under its belt and is yet to go open world yet. With Donkey Kong just one attempt at 3D, so maybe something more in between.
I mean, to be fair, Donkey Kong 64 was way more open than Mario 64 was. So, you know, there is a precedent for more openness and more connected environments. Just saying.
Well, I mean, what AB James is saying here, he's not saying that it won't be a 3D game. He's just saying that because they haven't had too many 3D games, that from his perspective, it seems hard that they would just jump straight to open world from 2D. So, and
right, I'm just saying that when Donkey Kong made its first 3D go, it was a bit more of an ambitious 3D than even Mario had been at the time.
Yeah.
And that was its first as well, so it's like...
Well, let me put a pin on
Who
this,
knows?
because we gotta talk about Donkey Kong. So, the thing is, we talk about Donkey Kong now, then we'll talk about Donkey Kong next. That makes sense. So I'm gonna put a pin on that, just because we gotta talk about what's being reported by me and Nate. Mostly him, but I saw some things, and then I had an initial source from way back that confirmed that something Donkey Kong is coming. Let's see here. Zach still with ASMR. Do you think Tears of the Kingdom will be one big Terry town where we rebuild Hyrule? Based off the recent news? Maybe.
Maybe.
Brandon, you haven't seen the quote yet, right? So
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
we'll get to that. We'll save Metroid Prime 4 to end the show. We're gonna talk about Donkey Kong, and then we'll move on to Zelda. Giancarlo, I sadly to inform you, but that open world Donkey Kong game rumor is false. I talked to a journalist I follow, and he confirms with me this Donkey Kong rumor is false. I mean, if you want to send that over to me, that's fine. But I'm telling you right now, I know for a fact that when I say fact, I know for a fact that some people who work with Nintendo are saying that they've seen stuff from Donkey Kong. And I also can say that I've seen some information showing that there was someone who worked at this studio that supposedly worked on this project. Multiple people were talking about it. I've seen reason to suggest that this is legitimate. But that doesn't mean that that's what the team is working on now. So, you know, whoever that journalist is, I don't...
DM source, please?
Right, like, you know, it's kind of like, I've seen some stuff that suggests that something of that was legitimate.
We're not saying you're wrong. We're just also not gonna. We need evidence. Give
Right.
us DM the evidence.
Hello, they're having 05. Metagaming. I can see Mario Odyssey 2 being real because that's easier to make versus making a whole new 3D Mario. Yeah, just why haven't they announced it yet, though? I feel like at this point it's like, well, I may make a video talking about Mario Odyssey 2. I just use that as kind of shorthand for what the next 3D Mario is. I don't necessarily believe it'll be straight up called Odyssey 2. I think it's been too long for it to be called Odyssey 2 without an announcement. But, you know, Nintendo has done stranger things in the past. Karen Buckley. If Nintendo does a normal Direct in June showing off Prime 4, maybe a Mario game, why wouldn't they be at E3? Because well,
good question.
If Nintendo's not okay, if Nintendo has big games for this holiday and they're skipping E3, what that tells me, well, the first thing that comes to mind is I think they're just going to have a separate event from E3 that's about introducing their new system and showcasing some of those new games. So
I have a feeling that Nintendo not showing up at E3 has nothing to do with Nintendo and has everything to do with E3. Because let's be honest, E3's pretty much dead, and Nintendo's been the only thing like limping it along for years now.
I mean, Nintendo has recently, I think it was Doug Bowser, they said that they're in full support of the ESA, that their official statement is just it doesn't match up with their plans this year. So if that's true, then all it suggests is that they have something different in plan now. Now, they did recently change over leadership with E3. I don't know exactly all the details to that, but that might have something to do with transitioning over. Regardless, though, I still think that there's going to be content coming. And similar to how Microsoft's not at E3, they're still having an event around E3. There's still, like, if you're an Xbox fan at home, you're gonna be eating good during the E3 time, and that may still be the true for Nintendo as well.
It's very suspicious that everybody pulled out at E3 pretty much at once. Like all the big three, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, all
It also could be that statements like that are just Nintendo not burning a bridge, and that you're right, but they're not burning a bridge because that doesn't mean they can't come back.
Well, I feel like Nintendo just feels they don't need E3 anymore. Like, why would they? Why would they pay millions of dollars to go to E3 and set up all this stuff when they can just do their own thing? They can just do a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah. Well,
everybody else is already doing that, so why not?
I do miss the physical events, but I am going to PAX. I will be at PAX this week, so that'll be cool. Nintendo will have somewhat of a presence there. It doesn't look like they'll have any new demos, but you know, I might be able to get that Tears of the Kingdom pin, so I'll have a pin.
Oh, nice!
I'll have a pin, so yeah. But yeah, I'll be there. So if anyone wants to say hi, just that'll be cool. I'm friendly. Very friendly. I'm just kidding. I am friendly, but not in the sarcastic, weird way as I was just suggesting. Anyways, Jay asks me, in your opinion, what is the likelihood that we get short sections playing as Zelda Underground? If you want me to assign a percentage,
very low.
Well, Brandon, did you see my video talking about Zelda's role in Tears of the Kingdom?
No.
Oh well. All right.
No, I did not.
Basically, there is you seen the art that Nintendo put out for Zelda, right? How she has that new Sheikah slate.
Probably, but
okay.
I've not thought about it.
So there is a redesigned Sheikah slate that's been shown in promotional art material.
Oh yeah, it looks more like a Switch, right?
Yeah, it looks more like a Switch, yeah.
I've seen it.
And what's interesting about that is that when you take a look at this, there's like, you know that one shot where they show the mushrooms in this underground area from the latest trailer?
Yes.
When you look at that shot, there are some big like metal boxes that are in the area, and oddly enough, we haven't seen Link explore that type of underground area yet, and Zelda does fall down a hole. What's interesting is that if Zelda does have the Sheikah Slate, what might be interesting is that, let's say every time Link does a major dungeon, it cuts to Zelda for a few minutes to have a bit of her own little quest, and she has access to the Sheikah Slate and can use abilities like Magnesis, kind of bringing back the Sheikah Slate abilities. That way they're not gone from the game, but they're with Zelda, and Link has his own new abilities that are kind of similar.
I have a better idea, because honestly, I don't think that would work. I think giving or forcing the player to be in a specific separate area from the world for a period of time is just so anti everything Breath of the Wild goes for.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make. I don't think they're going to do that. However, I could see something like the ability to switch between playing as Link or Zelda and using different power-ups. I could also just see eventually you meeting up with Zelda and her giving you the Sheikah Slate or a Sheikah Slate so you can use it, and maybe you don't
as
have
long as
those
you're not
powers
suggesting
the entire
that
game.
Zelda's gonna basically be like a swappable skin for Link, where she can use a sword and bow, because she's not a fighter. That's just, she's just not gonna be. She's not Link. She doesn't have monstrous strength and stamina and years upon years of sword training, and she's not a warrior. She's capable in her own right, but she's not that. You know what I mean? I feel like she might feel more like Ashley from Resident Evil 4, if anything, if she had those moments. So, but anyway, to your point, Brandon, I do think that because it would take away from the open air experience, that does kind of decrease the likelihood of her having her own underground playable sections. But, you know, I'm still not sure what's going down. I think there's definitely something off about how they're handling Zelda. I think it's something they're holding back on. So my take is that Zelda's going to have more of a role with this game than Breath of the Wild, an active role. I don't know if that means being 100% playable, but I think it's so. I'm going to say 30%. I don't think it's the most likely scenario, but I don't think it's totally far-fetched either.
I'm gonna go out with a bit of a crazy prediction.
Go for it.
I predict that either Zelda will be playable, like you can switch to her and play as her as a separate character at any time, or she'll follow you. You have the option to have her follow you around, and then you can just switch between controlling her, like kind of like Wind Waker, where you can control people sometimes, just so you can use like the Sheikah Slate and different abilities that Zelda has to solve puzzles. Because I feel like Zelda's not just going to hand you off the Sheikah Slate.
Maybe they could have some sort of connection.
You may need Zelda to use the Sheikah Slate.
Maybe they could have some sort of like, you know, like mental connection where they could they can communicate with each other telepathically, and you can you can switch, but she's like in an entirely different part of the world. Like maybe you could do that. Like it would at least allow for more explorative freedom. And I guess my take is that if they do the underground sections, as we're kind of speculating on, it would have to be, in my opinion, it would have to be a scenario where maybe at first Tears of the Kingdom we can't explore literally everywhere with Link, but as you progress, what Zelda does, her missions underground open up sections of the underground. There's a lot of malice there. Like the malice is blocking entryway, it looks like, from different points of the world. So maybe Zelda's goal is to find a way to clear that in the underground occasionally, and once she opens that up, Link obtains access there, and it kind of slowly opens up the world a little bit more. But eventually, it's fully open.
I could see that, like, them being separately, if you could switch to Zelda and explore the underground at any time. Like, doing that might affect the overworld and also let you explore as Link, but I don't think it would be, like, sections. Like, I feel like there would either be a place you go to where you switch to Zelda, or you can just switch to Zelda at any time. But I feel like there's not going to be, like, specific story moments that trigger it. You should be, in some way, able to go and control Zelda, if you can, and explore that area. Because I think the concept of you just having this giant underground area that you can only explore at certain times for certain reasons also really goes against like the entirety of Breath of the Wild's concept.
Yeah.
So I just don't think it's something they're going to do.
If I had to guess what's probably going to happen, well, I feel like there's something definitely that's being suggested with Zelda. There's also that woman that holds Link's hand in the trailer, and upon closer inspection,
I also think she's might be Zelda.
She doesn't have long hair, and we know Zelda has short hair, so maybe that's still Zelda. The shapes of the bodies actually match up. In my video, I put up imagery of Zelda in her goddess clothing compared to that, and the form of the body is uncannily similar. Like, now maybe they just use the same kind of model to depict a young woman, but we don't see any signs of long hair, which, I mean, it could be tied up though, right? I mean, it could also be angles, and there's different possibilities there, but I think there's a good chance it could be Zelda. Not to mention, we hear Zelda's voice showing up around that time when they have Link holding the hand, so there could be an implication there that it is Zelda. I know some of the people have speculated that it's somebody else, but when I saw the trailer, I just assumed it's Zelda, and I've always just kind of thought it was Zelda. May not be, but I think that is the most now the other thing is that even if it is Zelda there, that could be the beginning of the game, and she could suit up, and maybe she does have some level of playability, like, just because that
right, yeah, you have no idea the context for that scene.
Right, like, just even if that is 100% Zelda in the sky holding Link's hand, that doesn't mean she won't be playable. That doesn't mean she won't go back to the surface or underground. There's really just so many variables. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what's going to happen. And I feel that Nintendo is aware of the demand to have Zelda at least be more active with the game. Does that mean she'll be playable? Jury's still out on that, but I'm going to say with confidence, I'm going to say with 80% confidence that Zelda will have more of a presence in Tears of the Kingdom than she did in Breath of the Wild. Presence doesn't mean playable, just means you'll see her as a recurring character throughout the story and adventure.
Right.
But it does include that as an option. So
I am going to go ahead and double down on my prediction with no stakes, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to double down. I'm going to say there is some form of playability for Zelda, whether that's changing to her or having her follow you along and like switching to her, controlling her, or telling her to do something. Some fashion, Zelda is going to be playable. I'm using quotations here. In some fashion. Like, you'll either be able to control her directly or tell her to do something or something where she will contribute to the gameplay in a playable or semi-playable fashion.
It'd be kind of cool. I don't know, maybe she can tag along just for major dungeons. That's an interesting idea, actually. What if there's like a headquarters in the sky? She stays there, but when Link approaches one of the major dungeons, like maybe there's like 7 major dungeons in the game, and once he enters Zelda's point, Zelda's like, all right, you need me? Okay, I'm coming. And she kind of plays like a role kind of like Maker or Medley from the Wind Waker, where you had a side character that worked alongside of you. She could maybe be that for the major dungeons, so you have her to assist you, and maybe you could even switch to her for certain moments. Now, as Brian Doe says in the chat, or actually a super chat, so thank you for the super chat, buddy, it's super appreciated. Brian says, Zelda is a mage, not a fighter, and won't be playable. She has, I mean, if you include her goddess power, she is mage-like, but she's also a scholar, and she has a Sheikah Slate. She'll have different abilities. I feel like if Zelda
we have no idea what kind of magic she might learn or has learned in between Breath of the Wild.
I mean, it's
what
possible.
Kind of power she actually has. Like, we have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, if they make her a mage,
mages can be, maybe mages can't fight.
Right, they can blast people. Like they can do stuff. So she's in Smash. She's a mage in Smash. So but she also can kick and slap. So there's obviously it's Smash Brothers, so they had to take some liberties. And also, Twilight Princess Zelda
was playable and she could just slap somebody.
Twilight Princess Zelda had a sword.
Yeah.
So, what would be kind of cool is if they actually say, "Oh yeah, Zelda can fight," and she actually pulls out like a skinny like like rapier or something. It's like I got some training when I was younger, but she's not meant to be like Link where she can fight all the time and collect all these materials. It's more of like a limited thing. That would be kind of neat to see. But regardless, though, I think the point still stands that Zelda wouldn't be primarily fighting if she were to even have certain moments of playability.
Be more for puzzles.
For puzzles, maybe kind of more like sneaking around. I mentioned earlier, if you play Resident Evil 4, kind of like Ashley. So perhaps a little bit better than Ashley, but kind of to that extent. So that's what I can kind of see. I think there's a chance, but I'm not above 50%. But I think she's in the conversation, and I'm very confident that she's at least gonna be more relevant than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna kind of go through here. A guy you don't know asked me, with F-Zero already having a presence on Switch via NSO, a remastered GX sounds plausible, and is a safe way for Nintendo to reintroduce the series and engage interest from players. Yeah, and if they make it $40, to Brandon's point, it would probably capture a large audience. I still want new tracks.
That's fair.
Dr. Kokiri.
You've also played the game.
It's an amazing game. Yeah, I mean, I would still love the game regardless. And if the AX tracks are more accessible, especially because people can't really get them, they, in a way, it would almost feel like having new tracks because of the AX tracks. So, yeah, if they just make those accessible early on, then that's fine. But of course, if they do that, I feel like they gotta still think of a way to offer some reward for doing the harder stuff. So, I don't know, maybe they can offer skins or costumes or something. I think there's something they could do.
I don't know.
Yeah, Dr. Kokiri added me here. What weapon do you want Ganondorf to have in the final boss battle? Also, if he turned into Dark Beast Ganon, how would you prefer his abilities? Well, those are some cool questions. I want him to have the trident. Yes, the trident.
Yeah.
Because he's
from the wall painting.
Yes, exactly. From the wall painting. Great point. Fantastic point, actually. And when we think about it, this Ganon is the oldest Ganon. And when we look at Ganon in the Fallen Hero timeline, which has the most aged Ganon, he's more of like that pig beast, but in a semi-humanoid form, but he has a trident. So I think the trident is kind of like eventually what he starts to rely on, and I see that being his weapon of choice when we have like that duel with him.
Yeah.
And now if he turns into Dark Beast Ganon, I think this would be an amazing opportunity for the Zelda team to right the wrong of that Calamity Ganon beast in Breath of the Wild, where it was this giant thing that didn't move. I'd like to see it move. And in terms of the design, I don't think it would just be mouse. I would think it would look more like, imagine like a giant demonic zombie Ganon demon beast thing. Like that would, like still have like that giant pig form. Actually, you know what I would prefer, honestly? I don't want it to be like the giant the thing on fours. I want it to look kind of like Ganon in Ocarina of Time. That would be cool as like a final fight. He still becomes like a giant that you fight with, but it's not like this beast on fours. It's like this giant thing with hooves and giant horns, and it's a threat. Like it looks like a big epic boss, but it would be probably maybe a little bit smaller than that Ganon thing we see at the end. But the thing about that is that it's not really, it doesn't move. So that was nothing.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like something that'd be cool, because if you do like something really big, then it's hard to avoid the problem with Breath of the Wild where you can't really have it like move around as much. But
there's something else. Go on.
Imagine if like all the malice from underground erupted into like a gigantic form that broke through the ground, and then like you had to like build flying machines to fly, because it's so fucking huge. You have to build flying machines to like get up to different parts of it to like attack it. I think it'd be cool, like a puzzle kind of way, and like as a spectacle, and it'd be more. They have to make the actual like gameplay of it more interesting. Because the other problem, other than the fact that the thing didn't move, is there was literally nothing to like do or dodge. Like you just dodged the lasers and you just rode your horse around and shot. Like other than that, there was much to do.
I'm okay with them having a laser
to, like,
again,
but
this time it can hit you.
Different like enemies in the skies and stuff. Yeah. Imagine if it was like this huge beast erupting from the ground. You had to like fly around.
You
it.
ready
Was,
for
like,
this?
Other
You ready
enemies
for
also
this?
trying to like knock you out of the sky.
So I want the fight to have several phases. Twilight Princess had 4 phases. I don't know how many phases they'll do for Tears of the Kingdom. They may not think that just giving more phases makes it better, because they only had 2 for Breath of the Wild. But maybe give us 3. Maybe 3 phases.
Just make sure the phases are interesting and have different concepts for each of them.
Alright, so I think a lot of people assume that Ganondorf is hiding inside Hyrule Castle.
Right.
But we don't know that for a fact. Also, we already fought something like him in Hyrule Castle and Breath of the Wild. Like, I don't know. I don't really see the value in doing that again. Although, it definitely... you know, obviously, the first thought is that he's in there because it kind of harkens back to, like, the whole, like, castle in the sky, like in Ocarina of Time. Maybe he's there. I'm not sure. But I kind of like the idea...
I have a feeling that he'll redo the castle to make it like Ganondorf's castle.
I think they would have to change it a lot. I mean, the thing is, it was already very Ganon-like in Breath of the Wild. It was very dark, malice everywhere.
It was just Malicev covered.
You know, it'd be crazy. You go in there.
I'm talking like completely. Like we see most of the castle like fall apart as it's rising. Like what if he just like just demolishes it, builds a new castle?
Maybe
like whole new castle.
That would be cool. I would actually think it'd be neat if you go in and it looks like destroyed, but when you walk in, it's like actually like almost like a portal, and it takes you into like this beautiful, very like clean looking place, because it would subvert your expectations, right? And then you go, so it then becomes like a new type of castle. To your point, it's something that we could explore. It would be a spectacle, and then we fight Ganon. And to this end, what if it is a portal, and it portals you to the moon, which may sound crazy, but let's point out that there is a huge emphasis on the moon, and maybe we don't actually go to the moon. We don't know how high we can go, though, so I will point that out. But I really feel like with this huge emphasis on the sky, I feel that maybe they should have a battle that takes place in the sky. And if anything, maybe there should be a battle that takes place in the sky, the surface, and down below. So what if the battle...
he does have that, like, blood moon. Like, what's up with that? Why does he control the moon?
Right.
Why does he have that power?
Right. What if there's something on the moon? I don't know. Like, so what if his...
Malice beast on the moon? Dude, that'd be insane.
So, yeah, what if you have a battle on the moon? And what if the moon, like, blows up? And there's this sequence where you're falling down to the surface through the sky. There's rubble everywhere. And you are having an aerial battle with Ganon. That's one of the phases. But Ganon is riding a dragon, as are you. You're both riding dragons. Dragons are mounts, and you're duking it out in the air, falling, moon's crumbling, everything's crashing down to the surface. You crash. That's the end of the first phase. Second phase starts. You see like a monstrous Ganon, and you're battling it out, and then the fight ends, but there's this big sort of like explosion, and the surface breaks apart, and you fall down into an underground dome area, kind of like deep underground, even deeper than when we were in Breath of the Wild. So we have the sky, we have the surface battle, and then we have the underground battle, where Ganon takes on his proper form. It's like a final duel. I don't know, it'd be cool.
That'd be pretty epic.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they would get away with destroying the moon and keep the universe making sense, but...
What are you talking about? This is a battle for the...
Destroy the moon.
Brandon. You're missing a very key important point here. If we're battling Ganondorf, and we're going high...
a very key important point here.
Yeah,
the world needs the moon to survive.
I agree. Just bear with me. There's a battle going on here for the Triforce. Whoever wins the Triforce gets a wish.
They just fixed the moon.
They fixed the moon.
Post.
Exactly. They use the Triforce to restore the moon. They restore humanity and peace to Hyrule while eliminating Ganon forever until the next game, but or just like a different timeline. Yeah.
Whatever they do, they just need to make it interesting and most importantly fun to play, because
Yes.
you can't just have a spectacle that's boring like they did in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And honestly, it wasn't even that cool of a spectacle either.
No. I still think Ocarina of Time has the best final series of battles with Ganon.
Probably Ocarina of Time, then Wind Waker, and then Twilight Princess for me.
Yeah, those are in the top. The Demise fight was cool, but it was just one fight, so that's kind of like
I never actually played the Demise fight. I've played literally all of Skyward Sword except that fight.
That fight is a really it's like the best. It is or maybe the best part of the game. I mean, it's debatable. There's some cool stuff in Skyward Sword, but the final fight is definitely a good one. It's good. Like, and it ends well. I would still put it under the other three you mentioned, Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, and Wind Waker, but it's good.
Okay.
Yeah. That fight is pretty epic. Unfortunately, Breath of the Wild, yeah, the final fight.
By far the worst.
I mean, the fight against
in 3D Zelda.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here.
The first fight's kind of cool.
Yeah, the first fight's awesome. It's just the second part is kind of, that's what kind of brings it down for me. But let's move on. We still haven't gotten to the other topics. Just I'm going to read a couple ads here and then I'll move on. All right, I see another ad here from Dr. Kokiri. What would you want to replace the Korok seeds from Breath of the Wild? Personally, I wanted to be Tears of the Kingdom that we have to collect. I think we've seen some evidence.
Are going to be a bigger deal than that.
Yeah, I don't think there's gonna be like 1,000 tears.
No. It would be kind of interesting if they were tears, and say there were not 1,000, but say there were like 100 or 200, and you find the tears, and there's like little backstories on what the suffering was that caused the tear to form. Like, so there's some puzzle, but then there's also like environmental storytelling to go along with it. That'd be pretty dope.
I'd be
but
down
I don't think
if
that's what's gonna happen.
I think it would be cool if they brought back Pose.
Dude, Pose! Yeah, that's a perfect way to do that, to be honest.
Yeah, bringing back Pose would be awesome. So they could do that. Also, we've seen in the underground shot with the mushrooms, we see a lot of like blue flames scattered.
Yeah.
What if there's souls or spirits? Maybe you collect spirits, lost souls. Whatever you help guide. What if Zelda is underground guiding souls? And that's why she has a torch. She's the guide for the afterlife because she has goddess power.
She went straight to hell.
Or well, she's guiding them to heaven because she has a link to goddess Hylia. So yeah, I could see something like that. Brian Doe with another.
Underground though.
Yeah, Brian Doe with another super chat here. Minish Link for Shadow of the Colossus Ganon equals epic. I'm okay with I think one of the things that they kind of a missed opportunity with the final fight in Breath of the Wild is that they had a chance to make it feel kind of like a Shadow of the Colossus thing. Like if you could climb
that would actually
like a moving, dangerous, interactive mountain, that would have been amazing. Like I think they kind of they missed. Like they could have used more of the actual mechanics of Breath of the Wild to do. Like climbing should have been a part of it. Like actually, that should have been it. Like they used the bow. I know the bow is important, but yeah, a Shadow of the Colossus moment would have been pretty cool. Maybe they'll do that in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean that's kind of sort of what I was thinking. But like with flying machines and different things that help you get up as well, because I think they'll probably lean into the crafting part, perhaps. I'm not sure how much that is going to be part of the game, or how easy that is. I'm very curious because I feel like the crafting.
We need to get to the Zelda topic.
Cool.
We need to get to the Zelda topic.
Yeah, we do.
We need to get there, but let me just read this one chat from Joycey, and then we'll jump to Donkey Kong. We kind of touched on Donkey Kong. We'll talk about that for a few minutes. We kind of touched on it already, so it won't have to be that long of a topic, but depending on what you guys see in the chat, we'll see, and then we'll focus on Zelda, because we've been talking about Zelda a lot. I want to get to it. So Joycey J asked me, I don't think the final battle is at the castle this time. I think the castle floating up is something different. Maybe a dungeon, but not the finale. I want to believe that look, as we talked about earlier, if they kind of like teleport us or something, or they change the castle a lot internally, I'm okay with that. But I definitely want I want there to be some surprises at the end. I kind of want it to be at the end. And as James points out, was the ending Majora's Mask on the moon or in the moon? I think it was in the moon. So I'm okay with us going in the moon again, but it would be totally different. Then that's just one idea. There's a number of different places they can do. So maybe it's just a really tall island in the sky, which is kind of what they did with Maz Koshia or something in the DLC dungeon. So I don't know. I want something unique that's exciting. Whatever that is, we'll see.
Yeah.
So
maybe the castle goes to the moon eventually.
Maybe it does. Maybe it rockets to the moon and explodes and there's rubble everywhere and you have to have this epic battle with smoke and fire on the moon. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Alright, so before we move on to the Donkey Kong topic, I got this super chat here from Samuel A. Thank you very much for the super chat, Samuel. Samuel asks, how does it feel that Tears of the Kingdom is basically just a month and a half away? For me, it's pretty surreal that we're finally getting a new 3D Zelda. It's been over 6 years. And yeah, we're close.
Yeah, it does not feel real at all.
Well,
like,
yeah.
The hype for me is not there like it was for Breath of the Wild. I think because the marketing has been so different. Like, I've had a lot less footage to comb over and things to actually know concretely about the game to be excited about. So often I forget that it's this close because we have the least amount of knowledge about a Zelda game this close to release, period, I believe, other than, like, you know, obviously, like, the original and maybe some of the very older titles. But it's just, we know way less about this game than we usually do for Zelda this close. So it really doesn't feel like it's this close. Like, I feel like I'm going to get a lot more hyped once the Zelda Direct, or just the next time we get some actual real deep dive into Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, you know, I guess I don't plan this being a long topic because we kind of touched on it before. But there's a rumor coming from Mike Odyssey, friend of the channel, that the Nintendo Direct for Tears of the Kingdom is going to happen on May 12th. No, sorry, April 12th. May 12th is the release of the game.
Man, that would suck if it was May 12th.
Yeah, it would. It really would. It would make no sense. The Direct is the game. Just play it.
April 12th, so that's a week after the Mario movie, right?
Correct. Yes, it's a week after the Mario movie, so it gives them a whole weekend to, you know, just people watch the Mario movie. But then next week they can have a Zelda Direct, and it falls on a Wednesday. And what's interesting about that is that the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct that happened about one was I think it was 4 weeks away from the release, or 5 weeks away from the release of its game. It was also on a Wednesday, August. I'm mixing up dates, but so the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct was June 22nd, and it came out in July.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The Splatoon 3 Direct was on August 10th, and it came out September 9th, I want to say. But the Direct itself was also on a Wednesday. So my point is that both Directs that were about a month before the release of those games were on Wednesdays. So here we're looking at a situation where we have a rumor saying that we're going to get a Tears of the Kingdom Direct about a month away from before the release on a Wednesday. So it matches up to the pattern. This is something we've already talked about before.
Right.
I think it makes sense.
We've been speculating for a while that it's gotta be this time, because you have to talk about Tears of the Kingdom, right? Like, technically they don't, because as we've seen, the pre-orders are insane. But they also, at the same time, if they want to appease hardcore fans and not have them pissed off until the game comes out, they're going to want to do that. So and they are, like, they are going to have a Zelda Direct. I believe that in my heart of hearts, very deeply. So the only time they can do it, because right now, I thought maybe they could do it early March, but it's not early March anymore. We're way too close to the Mario movie at this point to pull marketing away from that. And after the Mario movie is extremely close to the game. Like, the 1 week, the rumor is 1 week after the Mario movie, and that's literally 1 month to the day from the release, which is absolutely insane to blow a game out 1 month before release. So I would be absolutely shocked, shell-shocked, if it was not by the 12th. Or at least, like, within that week. Because that would...
Sure.
I would
So you think any later...
Any later just seems insane to me.
And do you see a scenario?
It already seems insane.
Some people think we're just gonna get a trailer. Like, we're just gonna get a trailer like a couple weeks before the game comes out, and that's it.
I could see that if Nintendo just really wants to be secretive on this game, way more secretive than normal, then sure. I just don't think so. I think they're gonna want them. I don't know. I think that a Tears of the Kingdom Direct would actually do really well for them. Get a lot of views and a lot of attention and a lot of media cycle. But I could see the Direct being less in-depth than we might think. Like, I definitely do feel like they're holding back a lot with Tears of the Kingdom on purpose and being very secretive about a lot. And that we're going to find out a lot when we actually play the game that we did not know. But at this point, we barely know how the game is even structured. Like, they need to get out the big points, like what's replacing shrines, how are the dungeons working, like, how does this game actually play on a grander scale? Like, we don't know how the game actually...
I'll say this,
like, what's the progression of the game? We don't know. We don't even know the basic progression of the game. Like, we need to know things like that before the game releases.
Yeah, I was gonna say that there's this magazine that came out with Tears of the Kingdom info, but it was all basically just regurgitating info. However, I believe they suggested that there would be more info coming next month. What's interesting about that is next month, April 12th, will have already happened. So we're less than a month away from this supposed Direct. If it lines up. And I'm going to just be frank, I believe that this is when we're getting the Direct, and I think we are getting a Direct. I do think there is a need to give us a Direct, because while maybe a lot of Zelda fans are sold on it, not everyone is. So I do think they need to market this, they need to put that information out there. Now, that said, just because I'm saying that, it doesn't mean I think that they've ruined the potential success for Tears of the Kingdom by not talking about it yet. And, I was unsure about this until recently. So, but I did some light research, for a video I put out during the weekend, kind of talking about Tears of the Kingdom sales. So we've already seen in Japan, from a sample size, that pre-orders are exceeding Breath of the Wild already 8 weeks before release. So those pre-orders will still build up leading up to then, and it's already past that. Now, granted, obviously a lot more people have Switches now, so it has an advantage there. But the point I'm getting at with this is that with where Switch is at now, games have a really strong potential to succeed. And then we look at some direct sequels to major games that already had major entries on Switch, such as Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, a direct sequel to Pokemon Sword and Shield. So Pokemon Sword and Shield has sold about 25 plus million, one of the best-selling games on Switch. Scarlet and Violet came out last November. It's only been out for less than half a year. It's already over 20 plus. It's already reached over 80% of the sales of Sword and Shield. So it's doing really well. They still haven't gotten DLC for it. If the rumors are true, there's gonna be a graphics enhancement patch for it. It's gonna be the mainline Pokemon game for the next 3 years. So this game has a strong likelihood of beating Sword and Shield. Now let's take a look at Splatoon 3. So Splatoon 3 has already sold 10 plus million. Splatoon 2 sold 13 million. So we're only about 3 million away as of the holidays with Splatoon 3, and that game has only been out for a little bit over half, as of the holidays, right? Even less, right? So that's our thing. The numbers I'm talking about are just as of the holidays. They've still been selling throughout for this early part of the year. We still haven't gotten updates on that. Point is, both these games have already reached more than a super majority of the sales of their predecessors in a short amount of time. And if there is going to be a Switch 2 and there are going to be graphics enhancement patches, this is going to give them longer legs. Not to mention, we still have a long DLC cycle for Splatoon 3. We still haven't gotten that expansion adventure. They're going to be supporting this into 2024. So both Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and Splatoon 3 likely will beat their predecessors. With that in mind, if we're seeing these games that are direct sequels beating their predecessors, why can't Tears of the Kingdom? So I understand it may seem lofty to hit 30 million, but it would have. If it's lofty, that same logic should apply for Splatoon and Pokemon as well. It should have been lofty for those games to beat their predecessors, yet they're showing signs that they will. So while Breath of the Wild,
they're going to support Tears of the Kingdom for years.
6 to 7 years,
just like they did for Breath of the Wild.
6 to 7 years.
It's going to be the main game for a long time,
and
it's definitely going to have a very good version of the next system and continue to sell on that system.
And I'm glad you brought that up too, because I think with Tears of the Kingdom, it's almost going to have like a second launch. Because with the next system, I think they're probably going to push like an expansion adventure with a graphics enhancement patch, and that's going to give it legs for years to come as well.
With the DLC included, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So Tears of the Kingdom, I think, is going to sell really well. But I still, regardless though, I do think that there's got to be a direct to hype people up. 4 weeks out. I know they've been doing a great job of not giving us much, which in a way is great for avoiding spoilers. But it also kind of gets us a little antsy, creates conversation.
Yeah.
Some people may
a little bit
be
too much because,
disinterested, but that will change with a direct.
Right. The things we don't know are like how the basic progression of the game functions compared to Breath of the Wild. Like, we literally don't know that. But the amount of things we do know is actually a very, very small list compared to the amount of things we don't know, and the amount of things we don't know that are actually like just basic, like how the game functions, is very high.
We don't know.
So I feel like they need to know the basic progression and functionality of the game.
Yeah, we don't know about the UI. We don't know about the weapon durability system if it's returned. We don't know how the weather system works. We don't know what the start of the game is.
What kind of changes, like the vast majority of the changes to the original map. We barely know anything about the new map or the sky part of the map.
There are things we can surmise from the trailers, and we're probably right about most of a lot of the things that we've seen. We can probably kind of guess, but Nintendo still needs to confirm those things, right? Like
literally everything we've seen is like pretty much, unless it's directly shown, it's just speculation on things we think might be what we're seeing.
Right.
Like, we have not had a single trailer where they actually explain anything that's shown.
So technically, they haven't confirmed underground exploration. It's pretty obvious it's there because they've shown us literal footage, but they haven't confirmed it or talked about it, So there's and that's just an example. There's a lot to talk about here. But anyways, let's now move on to the Donkey Kong topic, because I said I would talk about it first, and then we'll transition to the big Zelda stuff that I know you guys want to talk about. Open world Donkey Kong is also pretty hyped, so
Oh yeah,
we got exciting stuff to talk about here. But I saw a request, so I figured I would do this. I felt that it was appropriate. So hold on. Aw, damn it. I clearly listened to this before.
Here we go.
putting up Donkey Kong music.
Yeah. You can't hear it though, can you?
No.
Yeah.
Got Tropical Freeze going or what?
It's the Donkey Kong rap.
Oh, the DK rap.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna.
Man, I would have sung along if I could have heard it, but
yeah, I'm not gonna do it for 3 straight minutes, but I felt that it needed at least reference. So.
Oh yeah.
There we go. Let's talk about Donkey Kong. So, all right. firstly, I put out a video about this a few days ago, but I'll kind of explain. Months ago, there was already some murmurings about a Donkey Kong game coming. But then I knew someone at the time that saw something at Nintendo promotional material that showed like Donkey Kong stuff. And they told me this. And that's when I kind of made a video saying, hey, look, so there's these rumors, some insiders have been talking about it. Well, I also personally have seen some things. I believe this is real. And that was kind of like what it was. We didn't know whether it would be 2D or 3D. We didn't know exactly what's going on. There was some speculation that was being made by the Odyssey team. And the idea would be that they would be bringing Donkey Kong back to prominence, which lines up with what we've been seeing, the Donkey Kong influence in the movie. There's a Donkey Kong Lego set coming. The next expansion to the Super Nintendo world is a Donkey Kong expansion. That's their first expansion from just the Mario stuff. So that says a lot about the Donkey Kong plan. You even consider that Miyamoto took a moment to kind of talk about Donkey Kong's new design for the movie, and just kind of the excitement he had there. And they wanted to take a moment to talk about Donkey Kong. I felt the implication there was that they wanted to just sort of give us an understanding of Donkey Kong. And if you think about it, it's actually even... This is another point that I haven't brought up yet that just occurred to me. And I've made the comparison before about Pikmin, right? So we had the Pikmin mobile game, we had Pikmin 3 Deluxe, we had the Pikmin stuff in the park, and then we got an announcement for Pikmin 4. But there's something else I just realized. So remember that really awkward segment where they talked about the Pikmin mobile game, where Miyamoto came out and talked about the Pikmin mobile game?
Yes.
Right? Is it not somewhat oddly familiar to how Miyamoto just took this moment to randomly talk about Donkey Kong's new design for the movie? Like, they didn't bother to talk about the other designs for the movie, just Donkey Kong. So what I'm getting, and then they announced Pikmin 4 in that direct, but they gave us a more significant trailer later. But I guess what I'm trying to suggest here is that all these different things are kind of pointing to they want to hype up the series, right? They were trying to hype up Pikmin.
Right.
We got Pikmin 4. They're trying to hype up Donkey Kong. I think we're getting Donkey Kong. Like I believe with a great deal of confidence that we are getting Donkey Kong.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. The signs are here. The stars are aligning.
Right. So you don't need any inside sources to know this. To believe it.
Even with just public information.
Exactly.
I believe it.
Exactly. But as I said, there's been some insiders who said so. I've seen something behind the scenes as well. Okay, let me explain the scene. Scene doesn't mean I've seen like gameplay of this game. I've just seen things that suggest the believability of this. But so this is a new story. This is the update. And Nintendo Prime broke this, and we talked about it. And you know, there are some other things I saw afterwards. There are some things. I can't say everything. I can't do that because it's just kind of like, you know, this is not information that's supposed to be said, right? But my point is I've seen some things that support the story, and the story is, I forgot the name of the studio. Was it Amusement?
Oh no.
Vicarious Visions.
Vicarious Visions. Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, Vicarious Visions, who's responsible for the Crash Bandicoot trilogy and also Skylanders. They have some experience making platformers. So the story is that they were working on a new Donkey Kong game, an open world concept Donkey Kong game between late 2015 and 2017. And this is a cool concept, and Miyamoto was heavily involved with this. He was very excited about the project. At one point, they had this idea to do kind of like grinding through like tree trunks, kind of like Tarzan or Sonic. And Miyamoto thought this was a cool idea, but he was concerned about Donkey Kong's feet. So they came up with this idea to actually wear banana peels. Donkey Kong put on banana peels so he wouldn't hurt his feet, so he can slide around. And
that's funny.
So they were kind of building out this idea for an open world Donkey Kong platformer. Now in 2018, supposedly they moved on from this project to do other things, and then we heard, and then you know there were the rumors that it went on to the Mario Odyssey team. Well, part of the story suggests that there was an offshoot of the Odyssey team. So some younger talent that were excited about Donkey Kong Country in the past that want to be part of this project to sort of revitalize Donkey Kong have now moved on to make a Donkey Kong game. And that's what they've been working on. And that's pretty much the story. I will say that there's supposedly Pauline would have been involved with the initial Donkey Kong project that was open world with Vicarious Visions. So that's a neat little concept there. Now you may have seen some fan-made, like kind of like dream-like studio, like the Dream game. Like there's like some fan-made games of this Donkey Kong Freedom project. That was the name of the project. The idea is that some people heard about this and they made that footage. So this isn't a rumor based off a fan game. The fan game came from the rumor.
Right.
But anyways, the idea is that
you said they made it in Dreams, like the PS4 game.
Yes, there's a fan-made version of this rumored concept. If you Google if you search on YouTube Donkey Kong Freedom, you'll see it. It looks cool, but that's a fan-made thing. But it's based off the rumor. So yeah, that's the basic gist of what's going on. And basically, Nintendo Prime saw some things. I saw some things that kind of support the idea that at one point this was real. Now, that doesn't mean that what they are working on is exactly what we know Nintendo's working on. We've heard things that Nintendo's working on something, that they're working on Donkey Kong, but that doesn't mean it'll be an open world Donkey Kong game. However, if there was this excitement that Miyamoto had, and they were working on this for a little while, and they moved on from it, to then move on to just do a two-dimensional Donkey Kong game, I feel like that's a little off. And when we consider the initial rumor that talks about how they want to bring Donkey Kong back to prominence, and they want to do something, they want to have a fresh take on it, to just make another two-dimensional Donkey Kong game, kind of like the Country series, I think that doesn't really fit. If you're thinking on it, I don't think that fits. Now I'm not saying they can't make an amazing 2D Donkey Kong game. I totally think they can, but what could they do with this 2D-dimensional Donkey Kong game that would be any more significant than Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, which is arguably one of the best platformers ever made. I mean, they could go more on the 2.5D route where they have some more camera perspective changes, which would look cool. They did that with Jungle Beat already, actually, and it looked great. So a modern version of that with perhaps high quality, even higher quality. I mean, Jungle Beat was a high quality game, but just they could make it a little bit more core centric, because the controls were simplified for like the bongos back on GameCube.
Right.
If they made something a little bit more sophisticated, I guess is what I'm getting at here, maybe a little bit more grand in scale, even if it was like a 2D, 2.5D Donkey Kong game, it would be an amazing game. And if that's what happens, I will still be stoked and amazed. But because of this story, because they want to bring Donkey Kong back to prominence, because of this heavy sort of like marketing that they're doing with Donkey Kong with the park and the movie, I am inclined to think that they have something big for Donkey Kong. I don't think this is going to culminate to just a two-dimensional Donkey Kong game, which, again, would still be great, but it's not going to sell 10+ million probably, unless they have some sort of new, something sort of new to bring to the table, which I think is harder to do with a 2D Donkey Kong game. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think you have more options with a 3D Donkey Kong game.
Well, I mean, there's just, in general, I feel like these days there aren't that many 3D platformers. Like, Mario is one of the only ones. Like, actually big AAA 3D platformers don't really exist anymore. Like, they kind of died out in the N64 era, and Nintendo's like the only people who've been keeping them alive since, for the most part. So, I do feel like there's, a lot of creative stuff going on in the 2D space, especially on indie, where that's a lot easier to do. And there's a lot of untapped potential in the 3D space with platformers, because nobody's really doing anything there except Nintendo. But that's only really with Mario for the most part. So I actually do think there's a lot more avenues, as you're saying, to explore new creative paths in a 3D platformer versus a 2D platformer for sure.
And I don't necessarily need it to be even like open world, or if it is, I don't need to be like these giant sprawling landscapes. I'm okay with it being kind of more like more close and dense. So if you play Donkey Kong 64, it's not like a massive place, but you know, you can kind of go around, and it's more open than Mario 64, but it's all kind of like continuous and connected. Like imagine if it was kind of like that.
Being pretty big if they, depending on what they focus on. Like I feel like Donkey Kong, you would typically wouldn't think of it as very fast, but I actually kind of do think that they could make him feel pretty fast.
I mean, they have him moving around the jungle like Tarzan, swinging from vine to vine, sliding through like tree branches,
sliding, using barrels. I feel like
rolling, as he does in the Country series. Like, yeah,
I feel like he could actually be a pretty fast moving but powerful character. I feel like you just need to make him feel very momentumless.
All right, hold on a second. I need to make a correction here because this is a point. I'm gonna point this out right now. Giancarlo's added me a few times. Giancarlo says your prejudice with 2D games oozes here. Let me just tell you right now, you are dead wrong. It's not even close. Okay, so let me explain something to you first. You can just check my channel. I have made multiple videos talking about how Metroid Dread is my favorite game of 2021. It is my favorite game of 2021. It is a two-dimensional game. It is the quintessential Metroidvania to play in this day and age. So this suggestion that I have a prejudice against 2D games is just off base. Okay, I love Tropical Freeze, and I've said multiple times that it is one of the best platformers ever made. And I've also said, literally during this stream, I would be okay with a two-dimensional Donkey Kong game. I would love it. If you check some of my previous videos, I've even steered people more to thinking of that. We've only now talked about open world now because of the information. That's what it is. And this is also a fact. This is not about what I want. This is not, this is not about any bias. This is simply a fact. 3D games throughout the Switch era have sold better. Open world Breath of the Wild, best-selling Zelda game by a substantial margin. Twilight Princess sold an 8 million mark. Breath of the Wild is now around 31 million if you account for Wii U sales. That difference is significant, and Breath of the Wild is still climbing. Super Mario Odyssey, best-selling 3D Mario ever. Before they went with the openest style of Mario, the Mario Galaxy games actually struggled to compete against the 2D Mario games. But once they went the more open style, Mario Odyssey has destroyed the 2D Mario entries in terms of sales. Kirby, traditionally a 2D series. Kirby's Forgotten Land, they went 3D, best-selling Kirby game of all time. So, point is, I would love it if it's a 2D Donkey Kong game. I would love it. There's no bias here. But the numbers dictate that Nintendo would be more inclined to make a 3D game if they're trying to go for big sales numbers. That's just what it is. Now, if they don't want to have a big budget, if they want to do something more smaller scale, make a 2D Donkey Kong game. I think that's fine. But the rumor talks about bringing Donkey Kong back to prominence. So either A, they can still do 2D, right? Maybe they're going to more rely on the marketing of the movie and the park to really push it to greater heights. But is it going to become a 20 million seller or a 15 million seller? I think there's not really any precedence to suggest it will in this day and age.
Yeah, I think the only real 2D games that could be like a 10 to 20 million seller would be like if they made a new 2D Mario. Otherwise, like, 2 games just don't sell as well. Just a fact.
Yeah, I mean, a 2D game can still be successful, right? Like Metroid Dread currently is the best-selling Metroid game yet. Now it's because it's a modern Metroid game made in this day and age, right? So we'll see what happens with Metroid Prime 4. We'll see how they compete. I think most people think Prime 4 will beat it. Prime Remastered is doing well, but Nintendo has provided limited supply. We know that it's sold at least 1 million so far, which is pretty good.
I think the digital sales are definitely going to be the most of the sales for that game.
The what?
I think the digital sales will be the bulk of the sales for that game.
Oh, for Prime Remastered, yeah. We'll see on that one. From what we've heard, that the digital sales were included with that 1 million number. So we'll see.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Anyways, we don't know what Nintendo is doing now with Donkey Kong. We just know that there was a concept that from what we've heard, and because we've seen some things that suggest that it was true, we know that there was an open world Donkey Kong game concept that they were working on. Was canned. The suggestion is they moved on development over to Nintendo. we don't know what that has become. So
We also don't know
yeah.
why it was canned.
I think the implication is that it's just and more of an Activision thing with Vicarious Visions moving on to just the stuff that they got to do. So.
Oh yeah, they don't. I'm pretty sure Vicarious Visions is in the Call of Duty mines these days. Not sure though.
Yeah. So, anyways, Brandon, what do you think? Do you think this this open world Donkey Kong game is gonna happen or no?
I think there's a pretty good chance. I don't know if it'll be open world, but I could see like open environments like Odyssey. I definitely feel like they're gonna do more ambition than say. They're definitely. I don't think it's gonna be a 2D game, but I also don't think it's gonna be like a lower ambition like 3D World or Forgotten Land style 3D game where it's more like level based still. I do feel like they're gonna do like at least the Mario Odyssey style 3D game where it's still like open areas but they're not connected. But I kind of do hope for an open world. I think they could do something very interesting with that. But I honestly, either way, if they have something cool that they can do with open world, then do it. But also don't think every game needs to be open world because I feel like that's where companies like Ubisoft have really fallen flat.
I'm just looking at the chat. I'm just seeing people saying, "Oh, that Andres hates Metroid." My God, is he saying I hate Metroid? And now 10,000 Noodles is saying that I stated that the CDI Zelda games are goated. Oh no! Apparently, I just whatever you guys want me to say is what's going to be said. You can edit it in. There's AI now. Like you can just change the narrative no matter what. So, yeah. Let's just maybe I should just say that you know what, Metroid is. No, I can't even voice that. I can't even voice that. Metroid is top tier no matter what. I've never played the Zelda CDI games, and if I go my entire life without playing them, I don't think it'll be any worse. So
I think it'll be only better.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any value that Zelda CDI could add to your life.
I don't need to play. I don't need to plague myself by playing the CDI games. Anyways, yeah, you know, I'm excited for this Donkey Kong project. We don't know what it's actually going to be, but I do think with this story, the conversation debate of whether it'll be 2D or 3D opens up again. So we'll see what it is.
Leaning towards 3D now. I'm hyped.
I'm leaning towards not just a basic 2D Donkey Kong game. I think if they do go in the 2D direction, there's gonna be something about it that makes it different from previous Kong games, and it's not just like, oh, he has a hat now. Like, I think it's gonna be something more significant. So
his tie turned into a hat, guys.
Yeah. That all said, let's get ready to talk about Zelda. Unless there's anything else you want to... I did want to make mention, just kind of like, we sort of touched on it, but I do like... I agree that I could see if they do go to the 3D direction, I don't think it needs to be open world. I don't think every game needs to be open world. But if it is like open zone or like just sandbox, I think that could still be great. And if it's kind of like this idea of Donkey Kong moving like a Tarzan, with some weight behind him, I think they could create a very unique platformer that would bring something special to the table, and I think that could lead to great success for them.
I think they could definitely do more combat focused stuff as well than Mario, more punching and slamming and throwing and things like that.
Just whacking other animals, proving he's the king of the jungle. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Oh, there's got to be a lion boss fight. Donkey Kong versus the lion. Prove who's the king of the jungle. There's got to be that. Oh man,
that'd be cool.
That would be really cool. Yeah. It was also fun playing Kirby's Forgotten Land because it kind of gave me a little bit of like those like 3D platformer.
I'm on the last world of that still, and it is one of my favorite 3D platformers.
It is so good. So good. Yeah, 100%. All right, let's move on to Zelda, guys. No, I don't hate Metroid. Please stop joking about that. So, here's a story. During this weekend, on March 18th, there was the Game Awards, the Famitsu Dengeki Game Awards. And Tears of the Kingdom won Most Anticipated Game of the Year. So, the producer for The Legend of Zelda, Eiji Aonuma, came out and received, and had some comments to say. This is what he said. This is a translation. This is a very wonderful award. The entire development team is delighted to receive such a wonderful award. In the previous title, Breath of the Wild, players experienced a new Zelda world. Tears of the Kingdom... experienced a new Zelda world where they are free to go anywhere and do anything they want. And in the sequel, Tears of the Kingdom, we have packed even more new gameplay where players' freedom of imagination will change the game world. I'm sure that all who voted for this game will be very happy with the results. I am sure that everyone who voted for this game will find it a fresh surprise, and I hope that you will enjoy the unknown Hyrule as much as you want to. Thank you. So Brandon, upon hearing that, did anything jump out at you?
A couple things did.
Okay.
The part about him where he said that we could do something to change the game world, that was interesting.
So let me reread that part for you. That is the part we focused on for today's video earlier. We have packed in even more new gameplay where players' freedom of imagination will change the game world. Keep in mind, he's saying this in contrast to Breath of the Wild, where it was about being free to go anywhere and do anything you want. Tears of the Kingdom, it's about the player's freedom of imagination that will change the game world. So now let's think about what they've shown us for Tears of the Kingdom so far. They've shown us the ability to craft vehicles that can go in the air and the land. We even see an air balloon. We've seen enemies that have different horn types, and there's this theory that those will lead to different weapons that we can use because they have different types of horns and stuff. And this seems to be kind of leading itself in the direction of more customization options and just ways to kind of interact with the world. But also, we've seen that Link was able to take some terrain and raise it to the sky with that time stasis ability. And we've also seen a lot of changes to the world of Hyrule with the destruction and the moving islands. This could be all subtle signs that this world that we're playing with is going to be highly interactive, and perhaps we could change it in a lot of different ways. So in my video today, some people noted I put out like a little snippet from the very first teaser for Breath of the Wild where the Guardian is chasing Link and it breaks the bridge. I put it there intentionally because what if there are more destructible environments? What if that was a that was meant to show up the game at first, and there were no destructible bridges. That may have been a cut idea, and we know they've been revisiting a lot of cut ideas. So maybe we could do that in Tears of the Kingdom.
Something about Age of Calamity as well. That game had destructible environments for like bokoblin camps and stuff. You could break them, and I always thought that that'd be really cool. As well as like we see the bokoblins like building structures off like the talos and stuff, the stone talos. It'd be interesting if you could destroy them, like just not have to kill the talos, but actually like destroy the structure built on top of them to get rid of those bokoblins. That'd also be interesting. Like I do want to see a lot more destruction in physics in that aspect, because obviously Breath of the Wild does have a lot of crazy physics, but not as much in the terms of destruction.
Yeah, so, what if we have more destructible environments? That would be amazing. Actually, yeah, you know what? Thanks for pointing that out, Brian. I hadn't gotten a chance to reading it, but I'll read your super chat now. And thank you for that. So, Brian brought this up. Link and Ganon die at the end of Tears of the Kingdom. Master Sword breaks, releasing Demise. Demise gets Ganon's Triforce, Zelda gets Link. Breath of the Wild equals Breath of the Wild 3 equals Breach of Demise. That'd be fun. I feel like Tears of the Kingdom is going to be the end of this particular series. But kind of going back to what we've been talking about, though, Tears of the Kingdom, I think what it's going to be, I think it's going to have almost unlimited gameplay. Some people have been trying to talk about what if this is almost like a Minecraft merger in the sense, and that may not sound like amazing at first, but just think about it for a moment. What if there's just so much level of customization in Tears of the Kingdom? You can do so much in that world that the gameplay and the replayability are just nearly or effectively endless. Here's another concept that we've touched on in the past that now seems more feasible considering this information we're talking about now. The Tarrytown quest. Best quest in Breath of the Wild.
Best quest.
We've heard that maybe they thought about like having a more expanded version of Tarrytown. What if they revisit that concept as well, and they go beyond? What if there are villages that we can build, cities that we can rebuild, especially considering that at the end of Breath of the Wild, Zelda does talk about how they want to restore Hyrule, perhaps even beyond. What if that was meant to be a big teaser for Tears of the Kingdom, so where we could rebuild Hyrule or restore it, or perhaps go even beyond depending on our imaginations. So there's a myriad of possibilities here, but also consider this: when we look at like the vehicle, the hovercraft, the air balloon, these seem to be kind of Nintendo noticing what players did with the physics in Breath of the Wild, how we created like air balloon things with the
They saw the TikToks, they saw the YouTube videos.
They saw us making motorboats with a chest or a sword with the raft. They saw us creating flying crafts with metal boxes and broken mine carts, or being able to fly across the world on a tree, or just being able to go to the very top of the sky with a piece of wood and some Octorok balloons. Like, I think the idea is that they saw that, like, okay, well, let's make this easier for more people to do and go to another level. So they may just be basically stacking more systems on top of what we already have, thus offering a lot of gameplay possibilities here. And if there's more customization in terms of how we can interact with the world in Tears of the Kingdom, I don't know how that's going to impact our typical expectation for what a Zelda game will be, but it does at least suggest that there's going to be a lot of gameplay, a lot that we can do.
I'm curious, like, because Tarrytown is also a very different concept than what this could imply, because Tarrytown, you bring specific people to do specific things, and the town goes in a specific way. But if there's like creativity and imagination involved, then obviously there would be some sort of customization to that. But in what way? Like, are we going to be able to determine where houses are placed and what they are? Or is it going to be more like we can change like what things look like, but it's still predetermined? Or like, what kind of freedom are we going to be allowed here, and what kind of freedom actually even makes sense to include, right? Because, it needs to work within the gameplay of Tears of the Kingdom, and it also needs to just be interesting to do in general, and it also needs to like fit within the flow of the game. Because I don't think they want to turn Tears of the Kingdom into Sims of the Kingdom, I don't think it's going to be, Minecraft of the Kingdom either. I think there's going to be certain customization levels, but inevitably it is going to be limited in some fashion pretty heavily, I'd imagine. And it's not like... I think rebuilding Hyrule is going to be a focus of the game. But keep in mind, it's not going to be the focus of the game.
Jinx, you owe me a soda.
Probably not even going to be the biggest focus. It's going to be a big focus, but I don't even think it's going to be like the biggest focus. It may not even be necessary to rebuild Hyrule that much to complete the main story. Like, it's hard to say how much that will even impact like the story itself. I think they could use it for like extra story, kind of like how Xenoblade 3 has a lot of like side quests and story and hero quests and things that expand the story. I think they could do that with the Terrytown quests, kind of thing. But obviously it's not going to be the focus, or probably not even one of the main focuses of like the story, I would imagine.
Let me point this out.
Progression,
Okay.
I mean.
I understand where you're coming from, and I'm not saying I disagree. But you look at the success of Breath of the Wild, and if you make it feel somewhat Minecrafty, that we talk about how like maybe Tears of the Kingdom doesn't beat the sales in Breath of the Wild. If it's kind of Minecrafty, it might. Like a lot of people might really get into that. Especially
I'm just having a hard time seeing like a way to do that makes sense to me. But obviously,
I mean,
like,
I also think that there's
here
probably some limitation. Like I don't know if I believe that like we can like just dig a hole in a mountain and go straight down to the core of the earth, right? Like
yeah,
I don't know if we
that
can do
kind of stuff is extremely
yeah,
intense. I remember Subnautica actually way back when it first came out in like beta or alpha or whatever.
Yeah.
You could just dig anywhere and create holes and just dig through the ground and like create tunnels and stuff, but it ran so poorly and it was so hard to optimize on the CPU even for the highest end PCs that they just took it out. They just removed the feature. In Minecraft it works because you have block segments that are like predetermined, right? So that's a lot less strain. But obviously that kind of feature I don't even think would be feasible on Switch hardware. To be honest, it's probably not even that feasible on current PC hardware. But I do think they could have some sort of cool other Minecraft-y things, maybe?
Well, like, if there are villages that you can build up, right? Like, what if you can fortify them, right? Like, what if there are forces again and you kind of have to stay up to date on these different villages or cities, and what if they can be attacked or destroyed, and what if it's up to you to maybe like get knights to kind of be situated there? What if you can kind of build up like maybe like build up like stone walls or fences or different like security systems to kind of hold off on those attacks, right? So there's a bit of that there, and the more developed the city is, perhaps the more resources you can gather from it. And if you connect that to another city, there's some rewards. They're like, those are like maybe some possibilities that they can kind of like do. There's a
trying
lot
to think
of
of
options.
how they can do that in a way that makes sense within the game, because I definitely think that they could make a game where that's like a focus, but if it needs to be done in a way where I'm not constantly like stopping the puzzles and exploration I'm doing, because I'm like, God, another city's getting attacked again. I got to haul my ass over there.
Yeah,
go protect
that's a good point. Like
what I'm doing.
that could get annoying. So I guess they would want to think about that balance too. On the flip side, though, I do like how in Breath of the Wild, when you're kind of walking around, sometimes you'll see someone getting attacked and you can save them. I would like it if they were to build on that a little bit, right? So it would be cool if there were sometimes attacks on certain encampments or villages, but maybe it wouldn't destroy it. Maybe they would just kind of like... I think there's a balance that can be struck that would be fun if that's the direction they go. Really, there's a lot of possibilities here. We can try and like interpret what Aonuma was saying exactly, and we won't know until we get that Zelda Direct, and perhaps not even then. Perhaps not even until we play the game. And perhaps for years afterwards, we'll still be discovering new things we can do in the game.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
But there's another point. Sorry, Brandon. There's another point I want to get to. Well, actually, it's about how he says at the end, I hope you will enjoy the unknown Hyrule as much as you want to. And some people have talked about that. So before I do that, I want to take this opportunity to kind of get back to the chat for a little bit, just kind of see what everyone's been saying there. I saw a few asks, and then we'll come back to this. Maybe you can kind of think about what this unknown Hyrule means. Let's see here. Mike Ossie added me a few times. What if the terrain changes depending on the path you take? What if there are many paths to take and each has its own ending? I personally don't want alternate endings depending on
Yeah.
how you play the game. I'm okay with an extended ending, right? Which were basically
Well,
like
that's how they did.
yeah, where if you
Yeah,
just
for
complete more
sure.
of the game, you see more. But I don't like it. It's like, okay, if I go to dungeon A first versus dungeon C, that means that Zelda dies in one and Zelda doesn't die in another. Like, I personally don't like that. Like for Fire Emblem Three Houses, there were 4 different paths with if you count for the DLC. Like I was content with my one path. I didn't feel the need to do the other paths.
Yeah.
So that's just a me thing, though, right? I'm sure other people feel differently. Although there are alternate paths that will throw Zelda theories and timelines completely out the window. That would just create chaos.
Yeah, that'd be wild.
Yeah.
Oh, the timeline's already messed up.
It's already
enough.
it's already a little chaotic.
Need they throw another wrench?
Yeah. They'll find another wrench, I'm sure. My God, see, what if you make a choice that eventually leads to the destruction of everything? Well, remember we were talking about that final fight on the moon and how it explodes and everything crashes? That would be a lot of destruction, wouldn't it? Let's see here. James added me. This is late, but what if they're trying to re-merge Mario and Donkey Kong series in light of Donkey Kong's role in the movie? I mean, if it ends up being the case that the Mario game and the Donkey Kong game are one the same, in one regard, it'd be disappointing because that means only one big ambitious game as opposed to 2.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I'd be down. How they handle it, I'm not sure, but
I mean, obviously, I would take it, but I do think that would be a bad path to go down because I think, like as I said before, there's not that many AAA 3D platformers, and I think that Donkey Kong could be a very, very different platforming experience than Mario. And then try to merge them into one game where you're getting like a half-ass experience of both. Honestly, doesn't sound like it'd be nearly as good as just making 2 individual games that focus on 2 different things.
I hear you. Yeah. Yeah, so I think there's gonna be 2 separate games. Now, maybe there could be a third game, right? Maybe there's a 2D Mario game that includes Donkey Kong in it. That's heavily inspired by the Mario movie.
Well,
I can see that.
Maybe both of the games explore, like, because we already see in Mario Odyssey, like, huge references to Donkey Kong in the BK City area. So, like, maybe they'll just lean more into that, where they actually have like way more references and like even have like, you know, side characters showing up in both and like different things like that show like clearly these are in the same universe.
Yeah.
With more references, even if they don't like work together in the same game, doesn't mean that they can't like include a bunch of stuff that, you know, shows that they're in the same world, same planet, according to the movie.
I mean, if they show a link, I think that'd be pretty cool. Super Luigi Kong adds me. Speaking of DK, when do you see Donkey Kong 64 coming to Switch Online service? Maybe when they announce the Donkey Kong game to kind of hype us up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
Now
sometime
there
next year.
There's some trickiness to it because Rare worked on it, but I'm pretty sure Nintendo has all the rights, so may not be that tricky.
Dude, they got GoldenEye on there. They can get Donkey Kong 64.
Yes, but GoldenEye is a universally celebrated game. Donkey Kong 64 is not. So, you know, that
True,
said,
but Microsoft and Nintendo are like in bed together already.
If there's 2 more Rare games that I think will come to Nintendo Switch Online, I think they are Diddy Kong Racing and Donkey Kong 64. Man, I really want Diddy Kong Racing on Nintendo Switch Online. That's going to be a trip. I am waiting for that. Hopefully they announce that coming as part of the next wave in September. Now, there are other Rare games I want to see come. I want to see Jet Force Gemini. I want to see Killer Instinct. I want to see Banjo-Tooie.
I think more Rare
Perfect
games
Dark.
definitely can come. Like, what is Microsoft doing? They're not even selling that. Like,
I mean,
you
the
could buy
fact that we
Rare
have
Replay
2, I think, bodes
on
well.
Xbox.
We have 2 already, so that's promising. So
yeah,
there's
just no real reason for Microsoft to gatekeep
Now,
those
it'd be
games.
really hype is if they give us the canceled Earthbound 64.
Oh, they'd have to actually go finish it first.
Yeah, they probably wasn't close enough to finish. But what's just kind of fascinating about it is that we did get Star Fox 2, which was canceled.
Yeah.
Actually, the weird
But that
thing,
was pretty much done when it was canceled.
it was completed, I think. Yeah, and they just didn't release it because they didn't think it was worth it.
Yeah, because the N60, they were just gonna release Star Fox 64. So.
Nah, but I mean, imagine though for Switch 2 they come out and they're like, hey, look, Earthbound 60. If you release Earthbound 64 for Nintendo Switch Online Plus members, like, that's gonna make some people buy it, you know?
Bro, yeah.
Yeah, but also Donkey Kong
that
64. Donkey Kong 64. If they announce a new Donkey Kong game, they put out Donkey Kong 64 to kind of get people excited. Some people will be like, all right, I gotta play this Donkey Kong 64 in preparation for the new Donkey Kong game. So we might see something like that. But let's all right, I'm gonna check this one other chat here, and then I'll move on to the next part of Zelda, the Zelda topic. Comic book profile asks me, when do you think Mario Party 3 is coming in NSO? That's a good question. I gotta double check.
The one's already announced that it's coming, right? Like 1, 2, and 3.
It is. We already got 1 and 2.
So it should be like relatively soon because it's gonna be, it's gonna come before an unannounced game. I'll say that.
Yeah,
it's already announced.
Most of them have already been announced. I just need to. I'm just double checking what the lineup is. So. What is the launch? I'm looking for like an article that tells me. Oh, look at another trailer. Okay, Mario Party 1, Mario Party 2, GoldenEye. We got those already. Mario Party 3, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, 1080p, and Excitebike 64. We haven't gotten any of these yet, right?
1080, I think we have.
Did they just release that?
I thought I saw it on there when I went to play some other games, but maybe not.
I have the Nintendo Switch Online here. I could probably find it. Let's see. What's currently available here? Let's see. We'll find out. Alright, so is there 1080p as you said? I don't see 1080p here. Am I blind?
Oh, maybe not. I might have lied. Might have lied to you.
Well, don't they add
might have lied to the
order?
good folks at home. What?
By the way, this is confusing. It says Mario Party, but Mario's hitting the 3. So it looks like it's Mario Party 3, but it's Mario Party. What's the order? Did they seriously release Mario Party 1 and 2? Or did they bring them out at the same time? Anyways, we recently got GoldenEye. So, what will be the order? I mean, I agree with you, Brandon. I mean, we're getting one a month, right? So, we have 4 left. We're probably going to get one this month. And, I mean, that could be Mario Party. Actually, because of the Mario movie, I could see the Mario Party 3 coming out next.
Maybe.
Yeah. If it's not this month, maybe next month. That's what I would guess, just because of the Mario movie hype. But within 4 months.
Not too long.
Not too long. It would have to be the last one to wait the whole 4 months, right?
Yeah.
Alright, let's see here. Which, interestingly, I think that kind of lines up for like a summer direct. Because if we get one for March, April, May, June, like that does line up. That does line up. We're getting a direct in the summer.
I mean, we have to. We know nothing after June.
Yeah, some people don't think we're getting a direct till September, but I don't think so.
What?
Because that's what happened last year.
Yeah, but we knew things past.
I agree.
June last year.
I agree. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about this next part. So at the end of Aonuma's quote, he says, "And I hope that you will enjoy the unknown Hyrule as much as you want to." Unknown Hyrule. What do we take from that?
I think he's just trying to hammer home the point that this Hyrule is like not gonna be the same, because I do think that's one of the biggest concerns with the game in general is that Hyrule, like, we're playing on the same map. How different can it feel, right? That's kind of like a concern people bring up, and like he's maybe he's just trying to hammer home the fact that this is going to be an unknown Hyrule. You may think you know, but you don't know. And I do suspect it's going to be that way. I mean, we see more and more stuff shown off in the original Hyrule map, the more trailers we see. Every single new trailer, we just see more and stuff that literally just was not in the other trailers, like even in the same places. They like took it out of that build, I guess, to hide it. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a ton more stuff that are not in the builds that they've shown in the trailers so far. So I think, for me, this just screams that he's trying to tell us, like, hey guys, don't worry. This isn't gonna be the same Hyrule. This is gonna be an unknown Hyrule for you to explore.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that? Like, when I think about like what Tears of the Kingdom is, it's kind of like sometimes a thing. It sounds like something I would have dreamed about as a kid. Like, I would have dreamed about, man, what if they made this big, amazing Nintendo game, like a Zelda game, and instead of just with the next game, just taking the time to build a whole new world, what if they were just to put the same amount of effort they would have put into a whole new game, but stacked on top of an existing game? What would that become? That's what Tears of the Kingdom is. So we're gonna see, and I understand some people from what they've shown. I think that's maybe, if there's any legitimate criticism that I think you can maybe make towards Nintendo's marketing campaign here, it isn't so much the silence itself, because I think, once they blow the lid off, they blow the lid off.
I see a lot of ads for Tears of the Kingdom, actually.
Right. Yeah, there are. And the thing is, for the casual mainstream, that's marketing enough, right? It's really just more for the core-centric that need the extra details. And they will give us those extra details closer to release. But if there is any criticism that I think can be made, though, is that perhaps some people, because they've chosen to give us a very limited amount of information on the game, and what they've shown, a lot of it feels very similar to Breath of the Wild, they're running into the issue of presenting it as a game that's not going to differentiate itself enough. Now, I don't believe that's going to be the problem when we actually get the game. When they show it off, I think it's going to be fine. But I think that they're limited marketing. And when I say limited marketing, I just mean limited in terms of what they're showing off about the game.
Right. I think they've been very smart, though, in the fact that they're being limited, but what they're showing, like showing the sky area, was just such an obvious thing, but as well as it's convenient, because you can show off this whole new area and not really show off the old area, and they've been very smart with like what they've shown, so where we actually get like new things. When you see Tears of the Kingdom, you can look at that and clearly see that that's not Breath of the Wild from the marketing, because of what they've shown. And I feel like that has worked to their advantage in some way, where they're adding like this whole new sky area. So even though it's the same map, they're not showing us much of that. They're showing us a lot of the new stuff. So that has been helpful in their marketing, to make sure that Tears of the Kingdom has its own identity from Breath of the Wild.
The latest trailer, I think it did a good amount. It wasn't as much as what we may have expected, but I think it's gonna be. I'm not really worried, because I expect there's gonna be a major direct that's gonna showcase a whole bunch of amazing stuff in April. We may, like the same way how we got this little tidbit during this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few news stories between now and early April where we hear some things. Like, I don't think there's nothing. Like, maybe Nintendo does announce the Zelda OLED before the direct for Tears of the Kingdom. They may save it for then. But that Zelda OLED, I mean, that in and of itself will be news, but maybe it'll have a trailer that'll show a couple extra snippets. And those couple extra snippets we will analyze, right? So there's that potential there. We'll see on that, but I think we're ready to move on to our final topic. Is there anything else you want to speak on, Brandon?
I mean, I could speak on Tears of the Kingdom all day.
I mean,
I do think we should move on.
I think we should get close to ending the stream soon. So we're gonna cover our final topic. We'll do a few more minutes of Q&A, and we'll close things out. Because I mean, I could go to town on the unknown Zelda thing. Like honestly, I need to record a video for tomorrow morning, not morning, but tomorrow. So I can't stream till midnight. I can't do that. I have to end things soon. That said, let's talk a little about Metroid Prime 4. So, basically, Metroid Prime 4 is being mentioned in these surveys that are going out. And it looks like, I haven't gotten the survey myself, but I've seen some people talk about it. And basically, the survey is asking people different questions about Metroid, trying to get a good understanding of why they bought Prime Remastered, what they're sort of looking for, things of that nature. And one question brings up, asks why did you buy Prime Remastered? One of the options is to hold over until Metroid Prime 4 comes out. So, it's not anything super substantial, but I do think it at least kind of shows that maybe the marketing team got the green light to mention Metroid, and maybe they're trying to get a good understanding of what makes Metroid tick, or what makes Metroid tick for some people, because that may impact their marketing cycle, what they do with it. There's a reason they do these surveys, for a reason, because they want to get a better understanding of what their fans like and want. And I also think that it could be a subtle hint that Prime 4 is not far off. I don't think that this survey by itself tells, oh yeah, Prime 4 announcement tomorrow, it's coming out next week, but I think it does hint that Prime 4 is potentially coming out within the next couple years. And I think couple is like late when, like, I think the latest we see Prime 4 is holiday 2024, personally.
Yeah. Can you repeat the survey question again?
Sure. They don't have it. I kind of paraphrased it, so I didn't have it. I didn't say it verbatim, but I can pull it up for you real quick.
Right. Just want to hear the wording.
Sure. It's all these different articles. Okay, so they were asking why people bought Metroid Prime Remastered, and one of the options read, it seems like a good way to pass the time until Metroid Prime 4 releases.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I guess it kind of indicates like they're trying to figure out how people feel about the transition between like Prime Remastered and 4, because it's a very interesting option to include, because it kind of goes assuming that it's going to be Metroid Prime Remastered immediately into Metroid Prime 4, right? That's kind of the assumption, because if you're using Metroid Prime Remaster hold you over until Metroid Prime 4, that kind of implies that they release one like consecutively, right?
So
it's a very interesting thing.
Prime 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of implies that Nintendo's at least thinking that we're thinking that Prime 4 is the next thing, not 2 and 3. Which is very interesting.
I don't know.
But that's also like a kind of a stretch.
Yeah, I don't... I agree that it may at least sort of tell us that we're not getting Metroid Dread 2 or Metroid 6 before Prime 4, which was probably already a safe assumption. But I don't think it tells us for certain that Prime 2 and 3 are coming out afterwards. I do, however,
but it is a very specific way to word the question, and it's an odd question, or the answer, I mean. And it's an odd answer to even have there.
Yeah. I do think that Prime 2 and 3 have the potential to become the next Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD, which may not sound like a good thing, but it's kind of like, hey, we were told these were real. When are they coming? When are they coming? Oh, it makes sense to put them out in the year where there's no major Zelda game, because Tears of the Kingdom's coming out next year. Oh, they didn't do it. What's going on? Oh man, we have a gap between now and Metroid Prime 4. Well, this is the time. Let's do it. Give us 2 and 3, fresh off the momentum of 1. Doesn't happen, right? Like, I can see them going that direction. And for the record, I believe the reason why Twilight Princess and Wind Waker did not come out last year is because Nintendo is simply saving them for the major gap between Tears of the Kingdom and the next Zelda game. I think Nintendo knows that we're going to wait a long time for the next major Zelda game, and they're going to need some content to kind of help tide things over until that game, which could be,
for sure,
best case scenario, 4 years from now, more likely somewhere between 5 and 7. So yeah, that may be the case. Now for the Metroid series, I think we should first see Metroid Prime 4 before we start talking about Metroid Prime 5 and 6. And I do have an optimism that there will be more Metroid Primes after this, but it's all contingent upon this one being good and successful, which I do expect. But until we know, we don't know, right? Like I'm not. Is it possible they could already be developing Metroid Prime 5 and they've already pretty much finished Prime 4? It's possible, but we don't know that, right? So I'm just gonna steer clear of that for now. But I guess the reason I bring it up is that if they know that may be coming in the future, they may want to have 2 and 3 to come out after Prime 4, in that gap between Prime 4 and 5, be it the next 4 or 5 years, So maybe. That said, if Prime 4 is not coming out till holiday 2024, I think you do use 2 and 3 to kind of keep that Metroid conversation going leading up to its release. If Prime 4 is coming out at the end of this year, though, I think you save 2 and 3, if that makes any sense. But again, I'm more leaning towards Prime 4 coming out next year, so I do think there's more of a window to release 2 and 3.
I feel like it works either way, because if you release 2 and 3 now, the people who played Prime Remastered and played 2 and 3 will want to play it. But if you release 2 and 3 after 4, people will be like, oh, what happened in between 1 and 4? Now I gotta go play 2 and 3. Like after its release, if it releases after. I think it works just as fine either way. So yeah, I could definitely see, and I feel like Metroid Prime 4 will bring in more of an audience for Metroid in general. So if you release afterwards, you might have a bigger audience to buy 2 and 3, which are a lot less popular and I guess hype-inducing as the original, and there'll probably be less of a remaster too. So I don't know, maybe doing it after you've established a bigger base with Prime 4 could be potentially better.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, when I think about 2 and 3, while I do want them, I don't know how well they're going to sell. I don't think they'll sell as good as 1. And I also think they run the risk of maybe...
I think they run the risk of them releasing and they only sell like less than 1 million each.
Yeah. That is kind of a problem. So I kind of oh hold on, baby girl. All right, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. So I think how they release 2 and 3, they had to be strategic about it. So either A, to your point, they wait till after Prime 4 sort of like increases the audience of the Prime series, or if Prime 4 is not really coming out to like maybe later 2024, when they reintroduce Prime 4, they use that hype to maybe they shall drop 2 at $40, right? And then maybe when they give us the next update for Prime 4, they shall drop 3 for $40. They kind of try to capitalize on when they show off Prime 4 to kind of create more buzz, and they hope that buzz helps to kind of push each respective game. So maybe that's what they'll do.
I see
Another
that
option,
working pretty well.
yeah, another option is maybe 2 and 3 come out as a combo pack, because we're not sure how much they're
Yeah.
going to be remastered, right? If they're not going to be remastered as much, maybe you do put them together. I did hear recently that with the Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, I think the idea is that they would come together as well. So Nintendo may actually be willing to do more of these combo packs. So if that's the case, you know, having them be a combo pack, showcasing them or announcing them in a way that is very inviting, and alongside capitalizing on Metroid Prime 4 buzz, that's probably how they're going to have to do it if it's not an afterwards thing, to your point. So it's tricky. Regardless, though, you know, I feel there's a fantastic chance we're seeing Metroid Prime 4 to some extent this year. I don't know about a release, although I think it's possible. I think I feel pretty good about getting a teaser this year.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I could also see them waiting till they show off their next system.
Right.
But not,
which I think has a great chance of happening this year, so it's kind of like... But I guess to your point is that they want to wait.
Before them.
Say it again?
Like, they could give us more of a teaser trailer, and then, like, maybe they just give us, like, some hints at gameplay through, like, Tanabe coming out and talking about it for like a couple seconds. And then save, like, a big gameplay reveal for when they want to show off the console, because I do feel like they might not show off the console at all this year. And I feel like there is a good chance you could get some sort of teaser hint at what's going on with Metroid Prime 4 this year. So I'm not entirely against it as well.
There's something else I think needs to be said. So, in my head, right, once Tears of the Kingdom is done, Nintendo's going to need to have, like, that big core-centric game to kind of capture the hearts of Nintendo fans, to kind of be like that speculation topic, you know?
Right.
And Prime 4 has a little bit of that, but it's nothing compared to Zelda. And in truth, I don't think there's anything that they can do that will really compare to Zelda. The most comparable would be a 3D Mario. And even that, I think, is going to be lesser. So I don't think there's any way you can really measure up to it with just one game. That said, I think there are at least three games, that can kind of hit that territory. One of them is Metroid Prime 4. So giving us some bit of a teaser on it, maybe this summer for a summer direct when they need to make a series of announcements because we have nothing for a second half, I think it makes sense. Another is 3D Mario. And another, as we talked about earlier, if they do have an ambitious Metroid game in the works, that would be the other one. So these three games that we've talked about today, all of those can kind of help to fill the void left by Tears of the Kingdom. Now, of course, Tears of the Kingdom is going to be relevant for years. Right? Like we're going to be playing and talking about Tears of the Kingdom for years.
It's going to be DLC.
There's going to be DLC.
Probably a second release. Definitely at least a patch on the new console.
Right. There'll be tons of theory videos and tip videos and things. Like it's Tears of the Kingdom is going to stay in the conversation for a long time, but it's not going to be like what's on the horizon anymore, right? Well, there'll be some DLC speculation, but it's not the same thing. Right? It's not talking about a whole other game. Now, if it's my theory where they're going to have an expansion quest, but it's going to be almost like another game, which is what I think they should definitely do, like a half of an adventure. You know what I mean? Like with what they did with Torna, or like what they did with Horizon. A lot of major games, or Monster Hunter. There's a lot of big games nowadays. A lot of the AAA games, they with their DLC, they tend to have like a second quest for the expansion that's pretty significant, right? It can almost be like a standalone release. So I do think that that's in the cards for Tears of the Kingdom. So that'll be something to look forward to after Tears of the Kingdom. But and my main point is simply that once Tears of the Kingdom comes out, I think there's gonna be a need for Nintendo to kind of showcase something else exciting like that to keep us engaged.
Sure.
So that increases the chances because Prime 4 is in that conversation. So we'll see.
They do have. I feel like, other than games though, they will have a lot of hype around their new console when they talk about that. So that is
Yeah.
going to be like a huge thing to keep focus on Nintendo, because obviously whatever succeeds the Switch is going to be extremely important to the industry in general. So it's obviously going to be a huge deal.
Oh yeah, for sure. Guys, by the way, we're ending the show in a few minutes, so if you have any final questions or ideas you want us to talk about, put it now. If you at me, it's a lot more likely to get to it. So, but we're closing out in a few minutes. Yeah. I mean, Switch 2 will be big. It'll be very big. You know, and I'm just kind of thinking like with Zelda, right? Like I think Twilight Princess and Wind Waker will definitely be the games in a year. You know, we got 2D Zelda to look forward to. And I'm pretty sure I've talked about this with you. Maybe I haven't, because it has been a few weeks since you've been on. But I've been talking about how I think that, well, I'm kind of expecting that the next Zelda is going to take about as long to come out. I've been speculating that maybe in between we get an Ocarina of Time remake. Like something more, like another remake, but something, you know, like something more ambitious.
That would be awesome. Honestly, like, I think there is a lot you can do with an Ocarina of Time remake, and there's a lot you can do with several Zelda remakes, to be honest. There's 2D games that could be very good for remakes. Ocarina of Time, I think, is probably like the biggest name that they could remake, but I honestly kind of hope that they never release Twilight Princess HD again, and they do like a full remaster, like Metroid Prime remaster, and go for the style of the that Smash stage in Smash Ultimate that's from Twilight Princess, the Elden Bridge or something. Like that would be epic.
If they were to remaster Twilight Princess and tweak the AI and difficulty, maybe Master Quest a dungeon so that it's kind of like new puzzles but kind of like remixed.
Right.
Oh man, that would be great. And you know what? Like that would probably be easier to do than rebuilding Ocarina of Time.
Honestly, I think Twilight Princess could use like a whole Final Fantasy VII remake, or like a full rethinking, because that game already tried to do like this big expansive world with, you know, huge environments, but there was just nothing in them. Like for the time they were really big and it was really cool, but there was not that much to do. So like imagine if you took the concept for Twilight Princess and like actually went like full ham on it, and then like, oh, dude, it would be amazing as well if they could go like full hog on the horse combat that we never actually like got as in depth as we were promised initially. Like I feel like Twilight Princess could be like, it has a lot of room to improve, but I feel like Ocarina of Time as well. I feel like both of those games, I feel like they probably do Ocarina of Time first, obviously.
Ocarina of Time would be a
and
shorter
that has
one.
It has a bigger jump because all we have is the 3DS.
It'd be a bigger. Well, I guess the interesting thing, like, if we're already talking about like visually remaking the game, maybe it wouldn't be easier to do Twilight Princess because it's a bigger game, right? So yeah. I mean, if you're gonna visually remake it regardless, then visually remaking Ocarina of Time and visually remaking Twilight Princess, while Twilight Princess may be a better looking game because it's more modern, if you're visually remaking either one to the modern standard, it doesn't really matter, because you have to go back to the drawing board visually anyways. I mean, I'm sure there's some difficulty with that, but you know, Twilight Princess being a much bigger game may still require more effort than Ocarina of Time when I look at it in that way. I
also think Ocarina of Time can be left more alone. People love Ocarina of Time, and it's one of the best rated games of all time, and it's just considered to be one of the greatest games ever made. So I feel like there's not a lot that you'd have to like change for people to be really into that. Twilight Princess, I feel like, has a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot of places to take that concept and really take it way beyond what they were able to do with the GameCube and Wii hardware. And there's a lot more opportunity there, which to make a much bigger, larger scale project. So I do think Twilight Princess would be a harder undertaking, depending on what they wanted to do with it. Because I feel like there is more they could do with it. And there's more they could do with Ocarina of Time. I just feel like there's less need to do so.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I kind of love what Capcom's doing, how they're going back to each of the Resident Evil games, remaking them with some new elements to that. Like, I would love that if they would do that for the Zelda series. Now, as cool as that would be, I wouldn't want to take away from the making of the next big Zelda game, right? So that's where it gets a little tricky. I wouldn't expect them in as quick succession. But if we can get maybe one of those in between now and the next major Zelda game, if it is going to take 6 to 7 years, I think that would be amazing. So, I mean, you open up my eyes to the value of a Twilight Princess. Wind Waker, I
don't need.
No.
Wind Waker's perfect.
Yeah.
Just give me higher shadow quality and anti-aliasing and a higher frame rate and resolution. That's all it needs.
Yeah, I mean, you could remaster it again, but I don't. It's like, yeah, to your point, like, it's no.
You just need a
now if you want to add
effort that's already there.
Yeah, if you want to add a couple of the cut dungeons, then yeah, but there's some arguments that maybe some of those
be over the moon.
There's arguments that some of those those ideas were kind of like they went on to become parts of Twilight Princess. So yeah, repurposed. But anyway, I got a few super chats here, so I'm gonna get to them. So Taker actually had a 2-part super chat. Thank you for both super chats, Taker. So part one, if we were getting Prime for this calendar year, Nintendo would be at E3 and announce it there, wouldn't they? This makes me assume the new console, let's get to part 2, is going to be revealed in July or August, and the September Direct will feature Prime 4 and the new console lineup, including Mario.
Well, he makes a decent point in the fact that I'm not even sure if he was trying to make this point, but this is what's kind of stood out to me is if Nintendo is going to announce a console around E3 time, there's no chance that they would have done it at E3, I don't think. I feel like they would have wanted to do it at their own event, where they can, like, control everything, not feel like they have to give Switch 2 demos into the hands of the people immediately and things like that. I just feel like they wouldn't have done it at E3. So that could be a reason why they want to.
If it's not going to, the first teaser for Prime 4 doesn't need to be a gameplay demo for it immediately, right? So I think just having a teaser in a direct is a general direct is more than enough of a good proper stage to give the initial teaser. Let's point out Smash Ultimate was in a March direct. That's when they teased it. So, you know, I don't think they have to do it at E3. That said, you know, Taker, with your idea about there being an event where they announce a new system in the summertime, late summertime, I'm inclined to believe something like that is happening. Now, where I'm kind of like what I'm kind of like speculating on, and I'm not sure. And again, this is all contingent upon it coming out this year. If it's a next year thing, I don't think that's what's happening. We're just getting a summer direct, and they're going to announce some good stuff for the second half of the year. But if we assume that there is a Switch 2 this year, towards the end, from one angle you could think, okay, well maybe they'll just give us like a trailer, and for just kind of how they handled the OLED and the Lite. But if this is meant to be their next generation, it may require more of a bigger event. They may want to showcase some of its improvements and features, and they may want to showcase some games running on it as well. So if it's more of like an event like that, I could see almost maybe like, if not like maybe like a Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. Like maybe that's what it maybe it could be like, and they won't say what it is when they announce the Direct. They'll be like, hey, tune in on such and such time for a presentation focused on our next platform, or they may say something like for our next addition to the Switch family, because they may want to market in a way where it doesn't alienate Switch fans. So they may say
Right.
something like that, and so yeah, it may be they may call it a direct. It's featured on their next platform, and they may make mention that it'll
I have
showcase
a
some
feeling
games
it will be a presentation.
instead of a direct.
Yeah.
I don't know. The thing is, because we already know what Switch is, and if it's kind of following the Switch concept, then I'm not sure that they will, they will feel the need to make it a presentation, like an hour and a half long presentation, like they did for the Switch one. I think they could get away with just a major direct, and maybe have a hands-on event later down the road.
Possible.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it needed to be like as long as the 2017 one.
Yeah.
But I could also see it not being a direct.
Yeah. Either way, I
I
feel
would
like
prefer it
Prime
to be
4
direct.
has a good chance to show up this year, even if, because the thing is, I still believe Prime 4 is coming out for Switch, so I think it's okay to
Yeah, of
showcase
course.
Prime 4 on Switch. Now, with the initial I guess the other problem is that if they give us a teaser, I don't think they can get away with just doing a title. Like, they have to give us something that gives us an understanding what the game is. Something. So, to that end, I think, I mean, they could, I think maybe it's a cutscene or something. Like,
I mean, to be fair, they don't necessarily have to not show us Switch 2 footage.
right. I mean, Switch 2 footage may just be like Switch. You know how like sometimes
A
Nintendo.
very interesting example that always comes to mind when I think of trailers shown by Nintendo that were not representative of the actual graphics of the
I think I
hardware.
know where you're going.
I don't think you do.
Oh well.
To be honest, it's kind of random.
Surprise me.
So, Yoshi's Crafted World,
I'm surprised.
way back in the day,
I am
when they
surprised.
showed that off, if you look in the trailers, you can actually pixel count a much higher resolution image than what the actual game ran out when it came. Like, way higher. I think it's like a full 1080p when the game runs at like a dynamic 720p
Interesting.
in the actual game. So there ended up being like a major downgrade in terms of image quality versus the trailer versus the actual game. So they don't always show the game actually running on the Switch, because there's no way, like, the game didn't look any worse in the end.
And
It
you know
actually
how
ended up looking
sometimes they
better in
showcase
some aspects.
some of those like 1080p screenshots, and it feels like that's the game like running like on a PC or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, it probably is the PC running on a dev PC.
Yeah, so I mean, in theory, they could show us a Metroid Prime 4 trailer. Not really. They could say it's not final footage, or something like that. So we're not even sure what it's running on. It just looks amazing, right? Like their first trailer they showed for Tears of the Kingdom. That looked amazing too, right? But they didn't. It wasn't gameplay. It was just like a cutscene that was an engine cutscene, but still, like they could do something like that.
We don't even know if that cutscene exists in the same way it did back then. So
anyway, the point is simply that I could see Prime 4 getting teased this year regardless if Switch 2 is showcased or not. But, we'll see how Nintendo handles things. Now, I see a few ads. I'm going to get to those ads, but let me get to these Super Chats first, and then I will get to the ads. I see some good ones. I will be getting to them. All right, so next Super Chat is from James. James, thank you very much for that Super Chat. It's super appreciated. James asks, how heavily do you think the next Mario game will be influenced by the movie? So I think the next Mario game will have, I want to say, a light similarity. Like, it's not going to be like, oh, we're making a movie based off the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Like, it's not going to be called the Super Mario Bros. Movie game. It's not going to be like how, how whenever we get... They do less of it now, but you know how back in the day they used to have a lot of movies and they would have a video game to come out for it? Like the licensed video games. It's not going to be like that at all. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are some things that happen in the movie that might be somewhat similar in the next game. Like maybe there's a character or a reference They might be like, oh, okay, yeah, that was in the movie, or okay, they also referenced that in the movie. Now it's also in the game. Like there might be something like that, right? Like maybe they reference like the history of Mario and Luigi from New York or something. Like I think there are some elements that they can maybe make reference to, and maybe even the visual style is kind of realistic. That it kind of in some ways looks maybe a little bit closer to the Mario movie. Like I can see some things, but I think it's ultimately going to be more of a light influence, and it's going to be debatable. But the ultimate point here is that any major like even Mario Odyssey, like if Mario Odyssey came out in this year, that would have been like, oh, okay, cool, right? But I think they'll make something that looks even better for the next Mario game, and I think that alone will get that Mario movie boost. Like you look at Pokemon Sun and Moon, it doesn't look like Pokemon Go, but it still got that Pokemon Go boost, right? So I think the same will still apply for the Mario game when it does release.
I don't expect them to follow too closely. I could see them making some references, but I think the Mario movie is meant to kind of reference everything that's been in the series before now and interpret it in a different way. So as far as like new ideas that will be in the game, obviously those aren't going to be in the movie because they haven't existed yet. So I don't think we're gonna like watch the movie and see like gameplay hints for the next game either. I wouldn't expect that. I do think the Mario movie is meant to do something completely different than like the next Mario game will be. So I don't think they're gonna be that closely connected, to be honest. But we might see a few things here and there that we're like, oh, okay, that might have been inspired from the movie, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Some light references, cameos. All right, so another super chat here from Samuel A. Do you think a Switch 2 is revealed in June or July for a holiday release? I gotta say the pieces are lining up. So, I just want to make sure I understand the question. Are you asking me, do I think it's more likely to happen in June or July? Or are you asking me, do I think it can happen in either of those months?
I think they're asking, do we think in either June or July,
right,
they're going to announce the Switch for this year?
I was ready to just debate, well, okay, June's pretty good because there's no game coming out then. It's fresh off the recent Tears of the Kingdom. But at the same time, Nintendo may want to wait till after all the E3 festivities and just do things to the beat of their own drum in July. And use that to boost Pikmin 4 somehow with a Pikmin 4K trailer. I don't know. Yeah, I think there's a chance that we could get a summer announcement for Switch 2. I think it'll be... I guess the tricky part is that I don't think Nintendo's going to have like a 6-month wait between the system's release, and between the announcement and the system's release. I think they're going to want to have a short window, because I think that they don't want to impact... You know, like they don't want to like announce Switch 2 and then just have 4 months where people are not buying Switches, you know?
Yeah.
All on the flip side, though, I could see a scenario where maybe like a 2 to 3 month window between announcement and release, and when they do announce the Switch 2, they still have a price drop for Switch. They still talk about how Switch will be supported for years, how it'll be backwards compatible, how the accounts will transfer over, which is why maybe like doing a direct where they announce that this is going to be in addition to the Switch family of systems. That way people can tune in and then they'll hear them explain the whole process, how it's still part of the Switch family, and that your accounts and stuff will transfer over. So people will still feel like, okay, Switch gets still relevant for a few years. Like, make that clear. Be clear with that messaging, that marketing. If they do that, you know, and then they announce a price drop for the Switch at the same time, they can take advantage of people buying the Switch at a cheaper price for like 2 to 3 months before the next system comes out to kind of mitigate the loss of confirming that Switch 2 afterwards. Now, there is one kind of caveat to this strategy. If there's a Tears of the Kingdom OLED, they may want to wait a little bit before they announce that Switch 2. But what's interesting, though, well, a couple things. One, we've seen Nintendo announce special editions for major games, and then 4 to 5 months later, they still announce their next system, right? So maybe they can announce the OLED perhaps this week or next week, or sometime in April. It comes out alongside the game in May, and then 4 months later, they can announce the next system, or 3 months later, and it still comes out by
I'm pretty
November.
sure there were special editions coming out for 3DS even after Switch had released.
Yeah, but Tears of the Kingdom is like a very core-centric game, so that's kind of where I'm like, I wonder if they may be a little bit more careful with it. That all said,
yeah, I think if they wait till like July, it'd be fine.
Maybe July, because of the OLED. However, there's something interesting that should be noted here. If we compare this situation to how they handle Splatoon and Pokemon OLEDs, it's looking like there might not even be an OLED, because they announced the OLED 9 weeks before Splatoon and 10 weeks before Pokemon's releases.
Oh,
that would
already happened.
Yeah, we're already less than 8 weeks away. So it's possible that OLED was canceled. I think it was a legitimate leak. I just think it may not be coming to market. Now, I'm not saying that for sure, though. I'm not saying it's not happening. I think it also should be noted here that Nintendo's handling Tears of the Kingdom in a very different way. We knew more about Pokemon and Splatoon 3 before their respective directs than we do know about Tears of the Kingdom. Like, Nintendo's just being more quiet about Tears of the Kingdom than their other games. And they may be sort of thinking about having like a shorter interval here. It also should be noted that those OLEDs came out 2 weeks prior to the release of the games. Like, they were announced 9 and 10 weeks before the release of the games, but they came out 2 weeks before the games. I can see a scenario where maybe the OLED comes out the same day as Tears of the Kingdom. So I still think it's on the table that it's happening, but I'm silly bringing it up that now that, we're getting closer and still no announcement, I am starting to consider, well, maybe there won't be an OLED. And maybe the reason there won't be an OLED is because perhaps they're thinking, well, we're going to be announcing a new system fairly soon. Maybe we should just hold off on that kind of thing. I'm just putting it out there. I still am willing to gamble that the OLED is still going to happen. Like, I'll say I'm maybe like 60-40 on it, or 65-35. But I think that, as time progresses...
OLED just makes sense.
I mean, it absolutely does,
unless you're releasing a console this year, it just makes perfect sense. And even if you were going to release a console this year,
it still makes sense.
I still feel like they could do it.
Right.
So it would be weird for me if they did not have an OLED.
Yeah, so basically, if they announce the OLED for Tears of the Kingdom, it does not deconfirm Switch 2 for this year. But if they don't announce a Tears of the Kingdom OLED, to me that says there is basically like a 90+% chance that Switch 2 is coming out this year.
It raises the chances at least.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. But it looks like we caught up on the super chat. We caught up on the super chats. Now let's get to the regular chat. There's a few good questions here I want to get to before we close out. Super Chris added me and asked, did you get what I said earlier about F-Zero GX running on a Super Monkey Ball engine? I mean, I understand that Sega, at the time, they were pretty good at making some fast-paced games, and I believe they were running on the same engine, or something based off of that. So that makes sense. Sega did develop F-Zero GX, so...
It's interesting.
Yeah. James, you asked me this through Super Chat, so I got to that part about the Mario influence on the Mario movie influence on the game. Netweed09. Andra, sorry, would it be possible to bring up the Metroid website? Do you see a 4 in the blue dust clouds there? Ooh, this sounds fun. Let's take a look. I will put up on stream in a moment. Let me just get to the website first. Metroid website. The official home for Metroid. Okay, let me share this with you guys. Okay. So am I supposed to see a 4 in this part here? I see moving like dust clouds. I do not see a 4.
Yeah, there's. It looks kind of similar to what they made the 4 out of, like, in the trailer, but nah.
I mean,
that is no 4.
I'll say this.
No 4 there.
I'll say this though. In Metroid Prime, in the opening segment, the sky was black and orange. They added blue dust clouds that are the same hue as the blue in the trailer. That's entirely new color design that was not there. And while they did remake everything visually, they stuck to the same color palette, the same style and tone for everything. Although there are some brighter colors here and there, but they didn't really change a lot of the color design for the different characters or enemies or environments. They simply did things to make it look better. Going with blue when it was just like black and orange before, I do feel that might be a subtle hint here. We're seeing both the orange and the blue kind of collide here. I think it might be like an ever so slight hint, because this is based off that beginning section of Metroid Prime remastered.
Right.
But I don't think I see a 4 there. But to your point, Brent, it does look...
No.
But I think your point, though, bringing up that it looks kind of like it, kind of supports my idea that, hey, that beginning part does kind of remind me of the teaser, but there's nothing in there that's like, oh my god, there's a 4. I don't see that.
Yeah, I don't see it come together to make anything.
I do believe that, Prime Remastered, the idea with it is to sort of hype up Prime 4. Like, I mean, the survey tells us that. The survey that we talked about earlier talks about how, hey, or it was asking fans, hey, or did you get Prime Remastered to hold off till Prime 4? It is generally understood people are waiting for Prime 4, and the people who are waiting for Prime 4 are going to be interested in Metroid Prime Remastered. Like, that is generally understood. So, yeah, that I don't see a 4, but Prime Remastered, I do believe in its existence itself is a tease for Prime 4.
Right.
Well,
I don't mean to rush through the last segment of the podcast, but if we don't close out soon, I might miss the window to go pick up the food I was going to get, because the restaurant might close.
Oh, okay. So, no, I got you.
If we could end within the next, 5-10 minutes, would be great.
We are ending very soon, Brandon. Let's see here. Just get to the final couple of questions. Could Metroid Prime 4 come out in September? Maybe.
I guess. September or October seems like decent time frame.
If that's when if coming out with a system in September would be interesting. Now, I guess if the idea is that if a Mario game comes out in November, Prime 4 in September, I could see a 2-month gap. Just not a 1-month gap between them. Spheromancer asked me, how did they announce the Switch announcement trailer, and how long was it between that and launch? So the Switch teaser happened in October.
Yeah.
And then the Switch presentation, the long thing where they explained everything. So the Switch teaser is like 2 minutes long. It's short. The presentation was early January. The system came out March 3rd. So mid to late October. Yeah. So you got 1, 2, 3. You had 4 whole months.
6 months and 3 months.
It's like 4.5 months. November, December, January, February. It was near the end of October and the beginning of March. So we're talking about 4.5 months. That was the gap between announcement to release. Taker610, we are getting Hogwarts Legacy and Pikmin 4 in July. Good time to show Hogwarts Legacy running on the next system too. That would be neat.
Yeah, because I heavily imagine that the Switch version is going to be compromised, to say the least.
Yeah, but to have a better version for Switch 2 later in the year, that would be good. SHC Grunt, remember when the Bayonetta 3 trailers ran at a solid 60 FPS even on cutscenes, when it wasn't like that in the actual game? Really? That is a very interesting observation.
I cannot confirm that, but at this moment, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I'll confirm that later, but that does seem that's another example of maybe how they could show off a better Prime 4, even if it's not for the Switch.
Does give another precedent of them showing off footage and trailers that aren't necessarily representative of actual Switch gameplay.
Yeah. Charles Trudell, Ratchet and Clank game from the movie. I don't know about any Ratchet and Clank movie, so I'm not sure.
Yes, there was, and it sucked.
Oh,
and the
okay.
game was also just a worse reimagining of the original.
Yeah.
So they can both of those can screw themselves, because Ratchet and Clank is one of the best series ever made, and that was trash.
I don't dispute the quality of the series, but I haven't gotten into it. Mainly because I'm a
You would
Nintendo.
probably really.
I probably would. Yeah, I just haven't. There's a lot of games out there, and I focus on Nintendo.
Platforming and shooting and collectibles.
Yeah,
and
I still haven't played Elden Ring.
Puzzles.
I plan on it, but
yeah, there's a lot of major AAA.
Now the Metroid Prime 4 remake. I mean, not the Metroid Prime 4 remake. The Resident Evil 4 remake. Like, I need to play that. Yeah, the list goes on. James, I agree with your take, Andres. Like you said, Miyamoto really highlighted the character redesign of Donkey Kong, so I could totally see the game going with that art style. I want to just clarify, I don't think the next Donkey Kong game will have the exact same art style. I don't think that, but I do think that there could be some light similarity, similar to how the Mario movie situation, but I don't think it's going to be the exact same art style. I think it's more just about focusing on Donkey Kong as a character overall, introducing him to the world.
I could see his design being more similar to that, because his design in the Mario movie is based off of like old drawings for like the original Donkey Kong. So I could see them making another design that's sort of, obviously, because they're not going to be able to make a design that looks as good as the movie, right? So if they make something that's like within, reason for a video game, but also still goes for that same kind of design, I can see that.
Yeah, not so much that it's going to match the movie design, but maybe more to the idea of reimagining how Donkey Kong would look. So it may not look like the Donkey Kong we've seen in recent years. It'll go for kind of more of a different direction. That would be nice to see.
Yeah.
I'll be kind of curious on what direction they would go with that. But with that said, we're gonna close things out so Brandon can get some food. We went for 3.5 hours, so it's not like it was a short show. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the show, if you could like the stream, that'd be super appreciated. And if you're new here, please subscribe. Help us get to that 25,000 subscribers by the release for Tears of the Kingdom. I will probably be streaming that game almost every day if we hit the 25k goal. So
nice.
that may be what we'll be doing. But we'll see you all really soon, guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys.
All right. Yeah, I know you gotta go, man. So I don't want to hold you up.